experience for the potential technological ascent of Zhuanbei in the future. More importantly, she saw Lu Ling's sincerity and strategic planning. He explicitly informed about the use of high-grade minerals for constructing starships, which itself was a sign of trust, and explained why he was so persistent. A visitor from the Earth Federation dedicated to building starships must have far-reaching ambitions, and establishing solid cooperation with such a force could yield long-term benefits that far exceed the immediate value of these minerals. After a brief silence of just a few seconds, the white-haired girl gently exhaled. This condition is quite fair. She lifted the glass of clear water in front of her, gesturing to Lu Ling as if to toast. I accept your terms. Moon God mining will be organized and operated according to your vision. I will spare no resources to build the most robust logistical barrier and sales network for you. The sales network will belong to you. And I will also have Christine assist you in sweeping the mid to low-end mineral market. Lu Ling raised his glass in acknowledgement. Just as he thought everything was settled and the cooperation was pleasant, he noticed that Jerdis was still staring at him intently, her golden eyes blinking, revealing a hint of expression that was inconsistent with her earlier shrewd negotiating demeanor. Lu Ling felt an inexplicable flutter in his heart. A familiar, ominous premonition arose. But before Moon God mining officially starts, I have one request, she began. Wait. Lu Ling interrupted. You don't want to discuss a marriage alliance, do you? Jerdis nodded solemnly, even quite straightforwardly. Yes. Uffed. The well-fed Sheen suddenly choked, standing up with wide eyes. What? Our leader kindly cooperates with you. And you actually want to become our sister-in-law? Absolutely not. Chapter 166. The end of the pirates deep within the Demon in the low-temperature storage area. The air here is icy cold, carrying a mixed scent of metal and some kind of preservative, as if even the passage of time has become slow and viscous. Emergency lights cast a pale glow, creating long, distorted shadows on the walls lined with condensation pipes and rows of silent body storage cabinets. This area remains on the battleship. Supposedly at Rachel's request, thus very few pirates are willing to approach here. At the end of the corridor, Lucius's figure emerged. He wore a dark silver high-collared uniform that looked crisp and new, his sharp gaze behind golden-rimmed glasses slowly sweeping over the labels on each cabinet door. His footsteps were light, barely making a sound on the cold alloy floor, only the regular rhythm of his breathing forming delicate white mist. On his wrist, a list of fallen personnel recently synced from the medical station database was displayed, complete with time and location. Area B07, fourth row, he murmured to himself, his gaze locking onto a row of cabinet doors. His finger glided over the electronic lock of one cabinet. The permission verification passed with a soft beep. The heavy cabinet door slowly slid open. A gust of even colder air rushed out. Inside lay a body covered with a white cloth, quietly resting. The face, due to the explosion and low temperature, displayed a rigid and unrecognizable twisted state, clad in a slightly oversized, stained chief advisor's coat of the Red Demon. Lucius's gaze lingered on the coat for a moment. Then he reached out with a gloved hand to gently lift a corner of the white cloth, revealing a lifeless hand. He brushed aside the cold fingers, and a chip the size of a fingernail, encrypted with Sealer's biometric information, along with a somewhat outdated chief advisor's wristband, suddenly came into view. A chilling smile curved at the corners of Lucius's mouth. Sealer, you really did use this trick to escape. His voice was low, barely audible to himself, but unfortunately, he was too hasty, forgetting to handle the most critical detail. He recalled the probing words he had used with the Mamba that day. Now he could be almost certain that Sealer was indeed involved. More importantly, the Mamba. How could that reckless man, who was barely alive, have the strength to drag an adult male body from a chaotic battlefield to this cold place all by himself? And was it necessary to do so in front of so many people? It was too deliberate. Deliberate to the point of insulting his intelligence. Once he dealt with the last two individuals who knew the most secrets about the Crimson Devil, he would have complete control here. However, just as he was about to close the cabinet door, a voice echoed softly. Advisor Lucius, what are you looking for? Lucius's figure stiffened suddenly. He slowly turned around, his pupils slightly constricting under the pale emergency lights. It was the Mamba, standing in the shadows a few meters away, his body no longer swaying precariously but leaning against a cold body storage locker. The tattered nano-armor he wore was crusted with dark red blood. They had just escaped from the pursuit of the Zhuangbai fleet. At this moment, the Mamba's gaze held a coldness Lucius had never seen before, devoid of pain, confusion, only a bone-chilling intent to kill and a mocking demeanor. Mamba, Lucius's voice maintained a facade of calm, but his hand had quietly moved behind him. Your injuries are not healed. You shouldn't linger here. I am checking the casualty list. If Lord Rachel returns, these individuals will be of great use to him. Checking the list? The Mamba slowly approached, his steps slightly hindered by his injuries, but remarkably steady. Advisor Lucius, you are still looking for him, aren't you? He glanced at the open cabinet door, where Sealer's wristband lay on the frozen hand. Sealer is already dead. Why do you keep pursuing him? Lucius narrowed his eyes, his expression cold. Mamba, you are a smart man. If you take your own life now, I will let him go. He paused, lowering his voice further, more cruelly. I know you have always wanted to protect your clever brother, haven't you? This is your last chance. The Mamba's pupils shifted, and the two locked eyes in the frigid storage area. Take my own life? The Mamba seemed to hear the greatest joke, but his laughter was filled with coldness. Lucius, you are truly foolish. Sealer is 1,000 times smarter than you. The word foolish pierced Lucius like a hot iron needle, hitting the most sensitive nerve he had. He had spent his life arming himself with precise calculations, and the thing he despised most was being underestimated in intelligence. The contemptuous assertion from the Mamba snake began to ignite the long-suppressed fury within him. Even so, Lucius's expression remained unchanged, his eyes hidden behind the pale lenses. Growing even colder. You say? I'm foolish. He repeated the word. A brute like you, who only understands force, is qualified to judge my intelligence? Without me, could the Crimson Devil have developed to this extent? This extent? What extent? To the brink of destruction? The Mamba snake laughed loudly, the sound piercing. You can't either. Chief of Staff, Lucius, great man. Outside the cabin, several pirates peeked in, then quietly closed the door with a soft click. Lucius took a deep breath. Without me, the Crimson Devil would have been torn apart by various forces long ago. I am the one balancing all sides, fighting for your interests. I am the one maintaining the operation of this ship. Humph. In your eyes, no one is smarter than you, not even Rachel. Rachel? He's just a symbol sitting on the throne. Without me managing everything behind the scenes, he's nothing. You useless brutes who only know how to fight. What do you understand? Lucius suddenly drew out a pulse pistol. You should shut up. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The blinding pulse beams shot out in succession, chaotic yet filled with destructive madness. The Mamba snake's pupils constricted, and his injured body erupted with a remarkable survival instinct. He didn't T-dodge backward, but lunged to the side, simultaneously pushing the nearby body storage cabinet with his still-functioning left arm. Bang! The heavy cabinet shifted just in time to block Lucius's subsequent pursuit. The pulse energy pierced through the metal cabinet, exploding into dazzling sparks and a burnt smell. Low-temperature gas hissed from the punctured pipes, instantly condensing into white mist in the air. Lucius did not stop, firing a dense barrage of beams. Foolish? You, a barking mutt. Come to kill me without even bringing a weapon? Foolish? Lucius shot frantically, emptying an energy magazine and quickly reloading. His movements skilled as if he had practiced 100 times. The white pulse beams chased after the Mamba snake, who was darting through the swirling mist and cold cabinet. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The beams grazed the Mamba snake's body, the searing air creating a burnt smell, leaving new scorch marks on his already damaged armor. The leaking low-temperature spewed white mist, which condensed into frost in the thin air, obscuring Lucius's vision. He activated the thermal imaging capability of his glasses, the coldness in his eyes intensifying. Dodge. Keep dodging, you brute. He followed the heat source, relentlessly pursuing. Where's your brute strength? Where's your bloodlust? In the face of absolute power, what good are your pathetic muscles? He pressed closer, the pulse gun continuously spewing deathly light. Just then, the heat source in the lenses emitted a muffled groan and fell heavily to the ground, no longer moving. Lucius sneered disdainfully. I thought this brute might have some earth-shattering means before dying. It seems I overestimated you. He remained vigilant, firing several shots into that area until the heat source was completely destroyed, then cautiously approached. I'll deal with you first, and then I'll send your brother to join you, he said. Lucius carefully moved closer, using his toe to kick the corpse of the Mamba, but it showed no reaction. He put away his gun, bent down to remove the helmet from the corpse, and forcefully turned its head. The moment he saw the face, Lucius's heart sank. An overwhelming chill shot up his spine. The face revealed beneath the mask was not the rugged visage of the Mamba, but that of one of his trusted aides. The aide's mouth and nose were tightly sealed with thick biological tape, his eyes wide open, pupils dilated from extreme fear and suffocation, devoid of life. He wore the same battle armor as the Mamba, making him a perfect decoy. Not good. Just at that moment of shock, a faint yet clear sound of a blade piercing flesh echoed from behind him. Lucius's body trembled violently, and his movements froze. In disbelief, he looked down and saw a searing beam blade protruding precisely from the area of his heart. The high-energy field on the blade instantly charred the fabric and flesh around the wound, and very little blood flowed out. At that moment, he felt no pain at all. With great difficulty, he turned his head slightly, using the last bit of his strength. In the shadow behind him stood the Mamba, cold eyes emotionlessly watching him. In his hand, he firmly held a small yet deadly beam knife, the other end of which was already embedded in Lucius's body. Do you know who I learned from? The Mamba whispered, twisting his wrist slightly, instantly increasing the energy output of the beam knife. Lucius's body convulsed violently, the light in his eyes quickly dimming, dissipating, eventually becoming hollow and lifeless. He collapsed forward, landing heavily on the cold ground, right beside his aide. The Mamba slowly withdrew the beam knife, the blade retracting with a faint hum. In the world of pirates, when it comes to core interests, it's either you die or I live. He quickly walked to the storage cabinet containing the body of Sela, opened the cabinet door, and inside, besides the disguised corpse, there was a hidden compartment. In the compartment lay a communicator, several forged identity documents, and a set of clean civilian clothes. The Mamba picked up the communicator and pressed the only button. A faint wave signal was silently sent, and after a while, a reply came. The coded message was, Bread. Chapter 167, Spy Among Spies in the Early Morning. In Halifa City, at the lakeside fortress, in the training room, Lu Ling exhaled a breath of stale air, assumed a stance, and locked eyes with the opponent, Gira. Half a year had passed, and both had undergone remarkable transformations. His genetic level was firmly established at E rank, his perception spreading like a web, capable of capturing the slightest energy flows in the air, while the power surging within him was as calm as a deep abyss, yet could transform into thunder at any moment. With the resources provided by Lu Ling and her own relentless efforts, Gira finally broke through the barrier that had troubled her for many years, successfully advancing her genetic level from N to F. This not only signified a comprehensive improvement in her physical quality, but also represented that she had finally touched the threshold of the coveted formal Knight's Hall. Her breath was steady, and her movements exuded a newfound ease. At this moment, still teaching Ataris the combat techniques, Lu Ling wanted to try once again to comprehend the exquisite yet frustrating flow style. As their figures intertwined, Lu Ling was once again thrown off balance by that familiar yet subtle strength, losing his center of gravity and landing hard on the cushioning mat. He hadn't even managed to fully see how Gira had exerted her force. Gira's figure was like a shadow, leaning close, and the two towering forms blocked the soft overhead light, casting a faint shadow. She extended her hand, her gaze carrying a hint of teasing, along with a sense of satisfaction. Lu Ling grasped her hand and leaped up using her strength. Wait, half a year ago, you were at N, and I was at F. Back then, I could still vaguely sense your force trajectory. I could even grasp the trick with a bit more effort. He looked at Gira, confusion filling his eyes. Why is it that now, even though we are still one level apart, your movements seem even more elusive? I can't even catch a hint. Gira smiled slightly at his words. Instead of answering immediately, she slowly walked around Lu Ling, scanning every inch of his muscles for potential exertion states. The gap between N and F was like a stream trying to shake a giant rock. Her voice was deep and magnetic, carrying a clarity that penetrated to the essence. 6 months ago, what I employed was mostly technique, a muscle memory formed through countless refinements and deceptive feints. That kind of technique was tangible, leaving ripples that could be traced. So your stronger perception could catch the slightest clues, and your greater strength made you feel as if sheer force could break through any technique. She stopped in front of Lu Ling, looking directly into his eyes. But now, it's different. I have ascended to F, and my body has truly begun to embody the essence of the flow style, rather than merely imitating its form. Gira raised her hand, her fingers slightly spread, coordinating her body to present a posture as if she were cradling an invisible stream of water. It was no longer just visual deception and rhythmic control. It was a high degree of unity between spirit, breath, muscle micromovements, and environmental perception. The influence I exert on you operates more on the level of your combat intuition, in the split second before you exert force. Through extremely subtle changes in breath and mental suggestions, I guide your own strength to become a tool that can defeat you. The stronger your perception, the more easily you might be misled by your own powerful feedback. The strength of E is considerable, but if it cannot be concentrated at a point to break through the flow, it may be more easily swayed and diverted by the massive volume of water. She made a gentle pulling gesture. You feel no signs because the flow has already aligned with, and even invited your strength before you exert it, integrating it into its own rhythm. What you are facing is no longer just my level F strength, but also a part of your own power that has been guided. Lu Ling was taken aback, subconsciously recalling the inexplicable sense of powerlessness he had just experienced. The complete loss of direction is far more unsettling than being knocked down by great force. So that's how it is. He nodded thoughtfully, a flash of realization in his eyes. Seeing this, Gira smiled slightly. Congratulations, Captain. 6 months ago, you were just learning how not to be swept away by the current. She assumed a flowing stance, her aura suddenly becoming ethereal and unstable, as if merging with the light and air in the training room. And now, Captain, you are beginning to understand what the sea is. This is the true entry point of the flowing style. I understand. Lu Ling paused for a moment and suddenly looked at her powerful yet flexible figure, a a familiar shadow flashing in his mind, and he suddenly asked, Gira, do you know Wing Chun? Huh. 2 hours later, the two walked out of the training room, drenched in sweat. The most obvious benefit of genetic optimization is the endurance that far exceeds that of ordinary people. It has been a week since he collaborated with Gerda to establish moon goddess mining. During this time, he brought the cycler class into the Mirage well and found that the mining efficiency was no different from that in the outside world. Unfortunately, without the gas cloud fullerene collection tools, mining drones could also collect ice but they were less efficient than specialized ice or drones. The ice or drones are too expensive and currently not worth purchasing. As for heavy water, Zhuangbei has stocked quite a bit, so he can just ask Parker for a few hundred tons when the time comes. Lu Ling had just finished showering and headed straight to the underground laboratory deep within the castle. The air was filled with a faint mixture of energy liquid and disinfectant. Zavina, Dennis, and Helen were quietly suspended in the optimization chamber, with Zavina undergoing the third phase of alpha enhancement. Her eyes were closed, her expression serene, and her golden brown hair floated in the nutrient solution. At that moment, a communication from Aura came in. Captain, the encrypted channel you requested to monitor has received a high-priority text message. The sender used triple dynamic encryption, and the content has been decrypted. It is related to collaborators of Silver Wing or those seeking collaboration with Silver Wing, with the tracing port identified as the Rabbit family. Rabbit? Rothanira's communication? Did her background respond? He turned and walked toward the rooftop. The morning breeze was warm, and the sun shone brightly. Below, the castle's spire cast a long shadow in the morning light, and further away, Halifa Lake shimmered like a giant sapphire. The Astro-class frigate, Courageous One, floated silently above the castle like a ghost. As the tractor beam descended, Lu Ling seemed to dissolve into the void, slowly disappearing from sight. This entire area was monitored by Aura, and no one could pry into it. In the confinement room, Feng Ling, Yelena, and Rothanira, the three core negotiators from the Blackwater Bay talks, each sat in a corner, still wearing their prison uniforms. Luli stood quietly in front of the one-way glass for a moment before giving a slight nod to Lien behind him. The door slid open, and Rothanira was brought out and taken to a lounge furnished with a simple sofa and coffee table. Rothanira's emerald eyes were calm and indifferent, carrying the usual detachment and vigilance. Lu Ling knew that these three women were not the type to willingly submit, but that was fine. It would take time to wear them down. What kind of relationship does the Marquis of Rabbit have with your Silver Wing? Seeing her silent, Lu Ling added, Silence works too. We happen to be conducting experiments on consciousness transfer for clones and are short on live samples. Rothanira's eyelashes fluttered slightly. You think too highly of us. He is a hereditary Marquis of the Empire, while we Silver Wing are merely small-time pirates. Small-time? A Marquis would send a confidential message for cooperation? Lu Ling glanced at the decrypted information from Aura and slowly said, just to send a greeting to you Silver Wing at the Emerald Eagle in Zhuangbai. Saying that the wind has arrived and the branches are ready to be cleared? The Emerald Eagle, that's your code name in Silver Wing, isn't it? Rothanira raised her eyes, surprise flashing in her green gaze. This was the secret signal for Silver Wing to connect with specific clients, indicating that the other party had matters to clear up and was ready with the basic conditions, waiting for the scavenger to quote or further negotiate. The reason this part of the Silver Wing Legion could operate for so long in the heart of the Empire was precisely due to such cooperation, helping them eliminate inconvenient obstacles in exchange for operating funds, and they had an excellent reputation with no after-sales issues. Now, Lu Ling had not only intercepted the information but had also accurately decrypted such a high-level communication, indicating that the other party's control over information was profound. Rothanira quickly regained her composure. Branches ready to be cleared? Your Excellency, could you have misinterpreted the decryption? Perhaps this is just a common communication code within the Rabbit family. She attempted to downplay the nature of the message, making one last resistance and test. Misinterpretation? Lu Ling let out a light laugh. Rothanira, be honest. The Rabbit family reaching out through your channels means something we both understand. This is a scavenger business deal, right? What I'm curious about is, what kind of branches in Zhuangbai would be worth a Marquis' attention and lead him to believe that Silver Wing has the capability to handle it? Rothanira realized that with the message fully decrypted, continuing to deny the nature of the scavenger business was meaningless. Lu Ling's questioning indicated that his current grasp of the information had its limits, which actually eased her a bit. As long as the specific target and price had not been exposed, there was still room for maneuvering. She pondered for a moment, weighing her options, and then cautiously spoke up. The scavenger business of Silver Wing has strict rules. Different branches have vastly different prices. Without seeing the specific tree species and pest conditions, we cannot quote, let alone decide whether to take on the job. Very well. Lu Ling wanted precisely this attitude from her. He then fixed his sharp gaze on Rothanira. I need you, under the identity of the Emerald Eagle, to personally meet this rabbit client and clarify exactly which tree they want to cut down. That's impossible. The final Star Hub communication array has been exhausted. Before that, I can't contact the higher-ups, and there's no way to quote. Rosanira rejected the proposal without a second thought. This communication protocol was highly confidential within the organization. And according to regulations, responses to the acceptance letter must be made within 3 minutes. Verification through the business card in the guest's hand meant that any delay would expose them. Sure, it's just these messy verification methods, right? No problem. I can report it. 3 seconds enough? Rosanira looked up sharply, incredulous as she gazed at Lu Ling. How could you possibly? She murmured instinctively, her voice betraying a hint of uncertainty that she herself hadn't noticed. The confidentiality barrier that the organization relied on seemed as fragile as a cicada's wing before this man. All right, let's go. Lu Ling stood up, pausing for a moment. I don't want to go too far. I've already informed this client of the meeting location. You know what to do, right? Rosanira remained silent, glancing at her outfit. I need to change clothes. Lu Ling gestured for Lien to bring her clothes. 10 minutes later, a luxurious hover car drove out of the lakeside fortress, with the two brothers in the driver's seat. At this point, they had both been promoted to level 10 crew members, with a monthly salary of 5-star coins. However, in terms of landing operations, level 10 was the ceiling. At the lakeside, there was a cafe named Cloud Realm Returns to Truth. The environment was serene, with large floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing a shimmering lake view. Sparse customers were scattered around, engaged in quiet conversations. The air was filled with the rich aroma of coffee beans and a hint of sweet pastries. The lakeside booth offered excellent visibility, with the light reflecting off the water casting shifting patterns inside. The three took their seats. They all wore highly realistic biological film masks that adjusted their refractive index based on light and the environment, making their facial features indistinct and difficult for optical devices to capture or remember. Even their voices were processed through built-in modulators, carrying a slight, non-human electronic quality. This was common camouflage in high-level confidential meetings. Seated on one side were the disguised Rosanira, Cui Ying, and Lu Ling, both dressed in black casual attire. Lu Ling appeared more like a silent attendant or observer, his presence subdued, yet his gaze calmly scanned the surroundings through the mask. Opposite them sat Lord Beckett, an envoy from the Rabbit family. Of course, Lord Beckett was unaware that he had already been exposed. Before Aura, any signal transmission route was completely transparent. He also wore a mask and was dressed in a well-fitted dark suit, appearing relaxed. After a brief silence, he spoke. Cui Ying, it's an honor. I didn't expect this meeting to come together so quickly. Your efficiency is impressive, and the choice of such an elegant location is commendable. His opening remarks were tentative, clearly surprised by the organization's swift response and arrangement for an offline meeting, especially in such a core area of Carthage. Rosanira nodded slightly, her voice processed to sound clear. We naturally respond to the client's requests. Efficiency is our way of survival. She paused briefly, her gaze penetrating through the mask as she got straight to the point. Let's be direct, my lord. Which branch do you wish to clear? We need to assess the species, pest levels, and environmental risks. The conversation felt like someone was negotiating a partnership with an environmental protection company. A low, subdued laugh came from behind Lord Beckett's mask, as if he appreciated the directness of his counterpart. He reached out to dab his fingers in the coffee and wrote a series of coordinates on a napkin. City of Juangbi, Parker Manor. Upon seeing these coordinates, Rosanira's pupils constricted sharply. If Lu Ling hadn't told her that this person was from Rabbit, she might not have reacted so. A marquis, attempting to assassinate the first heir of a powerful earl, even among the many gray commissions accepted by Silver Wing. This was an extremely rare and high-risk type. Beside her, Lu Ling also showed an intrigued expression as he looked at Beckett. The expressions of the three were hidden behind their masks. Beckett tossed the napkin into the coffee and laid out his conditions. The ecosystem of this woodland had been severely damaged, and we need a professional ecological restoration team to ensure the task is completed as quickly as possible. We expect a clean, thorough, and natural solution. Just then, Lu Ling, who had been silent like a shadow, casually adjusted his sitting position. Rosanira received the signal and immediately understood. She did not follow the usual protocol, but directly interrupted Beckett, who was trying to elaborate on the project details. Your Excellency, her electronic synthesized voice remained steady. For interventions of this ecological maintenance level, we have a standard quote. Oh. Lord Beckett seemed confident and eager to hear more. 1 billion. The unit wasn't specified, but the three present knew it was star coins, not some trivial credit points. 1 billion. This was far beyond the usual market price for such cleanup tasks, even carrying a hint of provocation. For a moment, Lord Beckett's body stiffened imperceptibly, and the gaze beneath his mask suddenly sharpened, locking tightly onto the emerald hawk. His confidence didn't extend that far. Just for a small grove. Why the need for so much? He was puzzled. It wasn't a complete cleanup. Your small grove has very deep roots, and the maintenance difficulty far exceeds the ordinary. You know our style. From the design of the plan to the special equipment and the expert team executing it, we provide top-tier configurations. Most importantly, we ensure the final effect, with no disputes. After she finished speaking, she fell silent, calmly gazing back at Beckett, waiting for his reaction. This strong posture added a bit more credibility. After a brief silence, Lord Beckett seemed to take a deep breath, his disguised voice carrying a trace of barely perceptible gravity. May I ask who your mentor is? Rosanyra sighed inwardly. This question touched on Silver Wing's internal regulations. She couldn't help but glance at the man beside her, who met her gaze calmly. He dampened his fingertip and slowly and clearly wrote a name on another clean napkin. The name was not any known high-level code within Silver Wing, but rather an older title, even with a hint of legendary connotation. Upon seeing it, Beckett was taken aback, instinctively leaning back slightly and bumping into the chair's back, producing a faint sound. The pupils behind the mask contracted sharply, staring incredulously at the tissue paper before suddenly looking up at the figure. Your mentor is here? Yes, our expert team is not far away. What is the purpose? Beckett found himself speechless. This astonishing news needed to be reported to the Marquis immediately. Rosanyra sneered. Oh, are you sure you want to be curious? In our original database. Well, no. My apologies. Beckett hurriedly waved his hand, his voice tinged with dryness. The earlier composure of a lord completely vanished. The background and level of the other party had far surpassed what he could handle at his level. Rosanyra seemed to lose interest in the conversation, her tone becoming cold and hard. This deal, even if it ultimately does not go through, according to the rules, a basic fee of 30% for project consultation and risk assessment must still be paid. Your boss should have informed you of our rules. Beckett fell silent. The Marquis had indeed authorized him with 500 million star coins for operational funds, which was the source of his previous confidence. He understood the rules, of course. He almost bit his teeth as he admitted, I will apply for the 30% consultation fee as soon as possible. Not apply, but pay, Rosanyra coldly corrected, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. This was a prerequisite for initiating any consultation. Beckett felt a sudden constriction in his breath, but he had no choice but to grit his teeth and respond, I understand. I will present this to my boss. May I ask how long your stay will be? We have another large-scale maintenance project to undertake. If you still have ideas about the Grove, 3 days. All right, I will consult my boss, Beckett said hurriedly as he left. Inside the private room, only Rosanyra and Lu Ling remained. Lu Ling did not touch the coffee. For someone who often stayed up late, it was not good for the heart and could easily cause palpitations, though that did not apply to new humans. How many people did your mentor bring? He poured himself a glass of water. Rosanyra was silent for a moment. You will know when the time comes. According to the agreement, if you lose, you let me go home. All right, but I estimate it's going to be tough. Don't underestimate the influence of those 4 words. Soon, Beckett returned. He sat back down, his posture even tenser than before. Clearly the communication with his boss had not been easy. The boss agreed. 1 billion, payment upon receipt of the expert team list. He paused, looking at the two, and added, but according to your rules, before the deposit is paid, a 2-way security verification must be completed to confirm that your receiving channel's encryption key matches the reserved seal. Correct. This is exactly what the Marquis asked him to bring up, to confirm whether the other party was genuine Silver-Winged. Rosanyra felt a slight tightening in her heart. The verification process for Silver Wings was extremely complex, requiring specific hardware keys and dynamic codes, and was responsible for checking the foundational information in the database by dedicated personnel from the headquarters. Moreover, the only Star Hub communication array capable of verification had already been used. Therefore, she could not complete the transaction at this moment. She instinctively glanced at Lu Ling beside her. Lu Ling seemed oblivious to her gaze, sitting quietly like a pure observer. Beckett took out a palm-sized black metal verifier, intricately patterned, and placed it in the center of the table. Please, Beckett signaled, indicating that this was the final step, his gaze fixed intently on the 2 individuals. Just then, Lu Ling finally moved, producing a metal verifier identical to Beckett's and placing it on the table. The 2 black metal verifiers began to pulse with energy. A soft click echoed clearly in the quiet room. Beckett's eyes suddenly sharpened, his gaze locking onto the verifier Lu Ling had produced. Then he quickly looked back at Lu Ling, his previous disregard for this attendant evaporating, replaced by immense surprise and reevaluation. Could it be that this usually taciturn person was the real one behind the operation, and the one beside him was merely a spokesperson? Within the organization, having a standard verifier was a symbol of identity and authority. A low hum emanated from both verifiers simultaneously, the intricate patterns on their surfaces illuminated by a ghostly blue energy flow, resembling living circuits. Energy ripples quickly circulated and interacted between the 2 devices, producing faint sizzling sounds. A crisp and pleasant notification tone sounded almost instantly after activation. Bidirectional verification passed. Rosania was stunned. 3 seconds. Lu Ling was right. It really only took 3 seconds. A storm of emotions surged within her, as she understood more than anyone else what this meant. It indicated that Lu Ling, or rather, the organization had not only perfectly replicated the verifier but, more terrifyingly, had instantaneously decrypted all encrypted seals and dynamic passwords, while the headquarters was completely unaware of this transaction. Lu Ling could easily impersonate the organization to take orders and then run off. It would utterly destroy their credibility and cut off one of their economic sources within the empire. However, she managed to suppress the turmoil on her face, maintaining absolute calm. Beckett was merely surprised. He had never handled such a significant transaction before. Your efficiency is indeed unexpected. Is that strange? My mentor is not far away, Rosania replied. Slightly irritated, Beckett chuckled lightly. With the cooperation established, he felt no psychological burden. My apologies, the payment will certainly be delivered in 2 days. Chapter 168. Integrity is paramount. The night in Triumph Castle is always a bit deeper than elsewhere. In the tranquility, a sleek black flying car slowly descended onto the private helipad of the main castle. Inside the study, warm lighting dispelled the night outside. Parker and Count Clun sat opposite each other, the liquid in their glasses gently rippling, the rare leisure bringing a sense of relaxation to the air. They were not discussing ambitions or official matters, but rather trivial, everyday topics. A gentle knock sounded at the door, 3 taps, neither hurried nor slow. Enter. Count Clun's steady voice resonated. The old butler appeared at the door, slightly bowing. Sir, young master, Lord Lu Ling has arrived. Parker was somewhat surprised and delighted. He almost immediately stood up from his armchair, his voice brimming with eagerness. Please, come in. Although Count Cruin did not rise, his slightly serious expression softened a bit, and a hint of barely noticeable admiration flashed in his eyes. He nodded slightly to the butler. The old butler bowed again, silently stepping back to clear the passage. Moments later, Lu Ling's figure appeared at the study door, striding in with the energy of the night air still clinging to him. Sorry for the late visit, he said straightforwardly, skipping pleasantries. I just intercepted an important message that I must tell you immediately. He directly sat down on the sofa, his gaze sweeping over Parker and Count Cruin. What is the message? Parker asked, noticing Lu Ling's serious demeanor, and his surprise quickly faded. The rabbit family has found Silver Wing and is willing to pay for your life, Parker. As the words fell, the air in the study seemed to freeze. Parker's expression remained calm as he looked at his father, whose previously gentle demeanor had completely vanished. Count Cruin's golden eyes narrowed as he slowly said, Lord Lu Ling. The friendship of the Zhuangbai family is deeply cherished. Lu Ling waved his hand, indicating no need for formality. What I want to know is, why has this Marquis rabbit suddenly targeted you so ruthlessly? Seeing this, Parker spoke with some regret. I'm sorry, my lord. The real target of Marquis Rabbit is you. I overlooked this, leading him to believe that we in the Zhuangbai family were protecting you. Count Cruin continued, the technical strength you have displayed, along with the potential of the Earth Federation, in the eyes of that Marquis, is an immeasurable mountain of star coins. It is a shortcut that allows him to quickly overwhelm all competitors and even challenge for higher positions. Assassinating Parker and creating chaos is merely the first step in clearing obstacles to obtain you more conveniently. He looked at Lu Ling, his tone carrying a hint of honest helplessness. This matter is of great importance, and I did not wish to drag you into the bloodiest whirlpool among the Empire's top nobles too early. However, since the threat is already upon us, we have no choice. Lu Ling listened quietly, then leaned back on the sofa, a slight smile appearing on his lips. Interesting, this Marquis must be very wealthy, right? Parker and Cruin were taken aback, not expecting his focus to be on this. However, the Count eventually said, some rumors may not be baseless. It is said that Marquis Eisen pays as much as 36 billion star coins in taxes to the Empire every year. Wow, 36 billion. Every year. Lu Ling's eyes sparkled brighter, reflecting the excitement of a hunter spotting an unexpectedly large prey. This is very good. How much territory does he control? Approximately 14 star systems. Along with several vassals, Count Cruin added in a deep voice. 14 star systems, and he pays 36 billion star coins in taxes every year. Not counting the enormous internal revenue and wealth accumulated over thousands of years within his autonomous regions. Lu Ling's excitement gradually gave way to a deep calm and greed. This is a big piece of meat. A big fat piece. His original plan was to resolve the trouble with Silver Wing, then steadily develop agriculture. Leisurely travel through the Empire on his ship, and on the way, retrieve that 10 billion inheritance from Kelisai, gradually accumulating wealth. Once one reaches the Omega gene, they will possess nearly eternal life. However, this comes at an exorbitant cost of 19.5 billion. For Lu Ling, he prefers to take the initiative and seek out trouble himself, like with Silver Wing. How many fleets does he have? Lu Ling asked again. This information had exceeded the usual channels of Zhuang Bei, and currently, Alya could only query all local data. It was only by anchoring buildings that support within light-year ranges could be obtained. The latest records show 46 fully equipped fleets and 1 fully equipped assault battleship fleet. An assault fleet? 50 Thunderstorm class, right? Yes. Are there battleships and aircraft carriers? The Marquis' strength is formidable, so there must be some, but the exact numbers are confidential, and I reckon they won't be too many. It doesn't matter. Since his target is me, that makes things easier. Lu Ling suddenly stood up, his gaze directed toward the vast star map on one side of the study. As the points of light flickered, the recent autonomous region of Rabbit was only 464 light-years away from Zhuangbei. If he used an accelerated route, the travel time could be shortened. At the speed of the Astro class, it would only take 163 hours. At the speed of the Tornado class, it would take 201 hours. At the speed of the Death Whirlpool class, it would take 272 hours. If that's too slow, just install a hyperspace drive. In a matter of moments, a preliminary action framework had taken shape in his mind. Even with his current E-class gene optimization, it was hard to completely suppress the intense excitement on his face, as if he had discovered a massive treasure. Parker and Cruin looked at someone's reaction and were momentarily taken aback. They had anticipated that Lu Ling would be surprised, serious, or even shocked. But they never expected that upon learning the true strength and intentions of the Marquis of Rabbit, Lu Ling's first reaction was one of almost perverse excitement. It was as if he saw not a deadly threat, but a rich star coin mine waiting to be exploited. The father and son exchanged glances, seeing doubt and confusion in each other's eyes. They knew Lu Ling's warships were strong, but this hidden blade had never been drawn, and they had no idea how strong it truly was, as it exceeded their understanding. However, the most direct quantity was still too small. Your Excellency. Parker couldn't help but speak up. Lu Ling raised his hand, interrupting Parker. Parker, Count Cruin, he said, his gaze sweeping over the two, his tone unusually calm and clear. I have a plan. Count Cruin was momentarily stunned. Then his eyes sparkled as he suddenly burst into hearty laughter. Huh? Are you perhaps thinking of turning this situation to your advantage? Truly an old fox, he understands quickly. Subsequently, at the Count's enthusiastic invitation, Lu Ling reluctantly stayed for a late-night meal, gaining a deeper understanding of the dynamics among imperial nobles. The nobility under Count Zhuangbei differs from that under Marquis Aishin. The Zhuang family is directly bestowed by the emperor and the cabinet, enjoying a permanent seat in the House of Commons. As long as no major mistakes are made, their titles and territories are unshakable, and heirs must be approved by the Imperial House of Lords and the Nobility Council, making it a true hereditary title. In contrast, the title of Count granted by Marquis Aishin is unrelated to the Empire. He can grant or revoke it at will. There is no such thing as a first-in-line heir. It was only when the night grew darker that Lu Ling returned to the lakeside fortress. In a good mood, he walked straight to the heavily guarded confinement area. The airtight door slid open, and Lu Ling stepped inside. Rosania was sitting against the wall. Next to her were the puzzled Feng Ling and the observing Yelena. Upon seeing Lu Ling arrive late at night, Rosania lifted her eyes, a mix of vigilance and fatigue in her bright green gaze. But more than that, there was deep confusion. The operation had clearly been completed, and she couldn't understand why this man had come to see her at such an hour. Lu Ling didn't beat around the bush, a light smile even on his face. Are your mentors really close? Rosania was slightly taken aback, not expecting him to ask this. Wasn't it you who asked me to contact them? I've reported all your intel and information to headquarters, and my mentor takes it very seriously. Okay. You guys at Silver Wing are quite efficient, Lu Ling replied, and Rosania felt it was somewhat absurd, almost thinking she had misheard. Lu Ling seemed oblivious to her expression and continued, his tone even carrying a hint of urgency. Since they're almost here, hurry up and send a message to your mentor. Urge them to come faster. It would be best to report an exact arrival time. Rosania was completely bewildered, almost doubting her own hearing. What did you just say? Urge them to come faster. She had seen those who wanted death to come sooner, but she had never encountered someone actively urging assassins to provide their services more quickly. Is this person crazy? Of course, Lu Ling said with an air of certainty. I promised Baron Beckett, I can't just drag it out, right? That would affect credibility. He then shifted his tone, crouching down, his gaze through the glass landing on Rosania's face, his voice whispering like a demon. The sooner they come, the sooner work gets done, and the sooner the final payment can be settled. There's more important stuff waiting. He emphasized the term settle the final payment, the implication sending an inexplicable chill down Rosania's spine. Who exactly is this man? Not only was he unafraid of Silver Wing, but he even treated them as tools to be commanded at will to achieve his own goals. Don't you know how terrifying we at Silver Wing are? She asked. I do, but it's not that terrifying really. It's far less than that commercial alliance back home, called PIBC. What? The Earth Federation's commercial alliance can actually The seemingly gentle smile on Lu Ling's face now appeared sharp in her eyes, filling her with great uncertainty and fear about the outcome of Silver Wing's mission for the first time. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Lu Ling asked, raising an eyebrow when she fell silent. Do you need me to have Aura contact you again? Rosanilla was completely silent. Lu Ling smiled, turned, and left. The door to the confinement room closed once more. The three women looked at each other. Is he really that happy? Yelena blinked her clear eyes, tilting her head to look at Rosanilla. Hey, it seems like you're about to gain your freedom. Who has such a big influence to redeem you? Feng Ling opened her eyes, glanced at Rosanilla, and then coldly closed them again, as if everything outside had nothing to do with her. Chapter 169. The Rebellion of Lonnie Carthage Star, Liuli City, Lonnie Manor. It was the afternoon in the local area, and the unique iridescent monsoon of the Liuli Sea swept over the vast estate, bringing with it a humid and slightly briny air. Behind the main house, near a carefully trimmed private beach, Roni was lounging in a comfortable floating chair, his silk robe loosely wrapped around his well-maintained corpulent body. A glass of beer, bubbling lightly and resembling liquid gold, floated nearby. Not far off, several elegantly dressed performers in sheer skirts danced gracefully in the shallow water, their movements synchronized with the gentle strains of classical music, creating rippling waves and enchanting light patterns. Further away, 2 or 3 of his favored young ladies were playfully splashing water at each other, their tinkling laughter carried on the breeze. This was the sanctuary Roni had painstakingly built for himself, a refuge from the intrigues of the Elder Council and the troubles of family affairs. He squinted his eyes, savoring the rare moment of relaxation, his fingertips gently tapping the arm of the chair in rhythm with the music, contemplating which of the new dancers he would summon for the night. However, this tranquility was soon disrupted. His beautiful housekeeper appeared at the edge of the water, walking towards him with a slight bow. Her voice was low, yet it clearly reached Roni's ears. Sir, Lord Beckett has arrived and is waiting in the reception room. Roni's leisurely demeanor instantly froze, the enjoyment vanished from his face, and a complex expression took its place. The golden liquid in his glass seemed to lose its alluring sheen. Taking a deep breath, Roni instructed, just tell him I'm not available right now. Have him come back later. Understood, the housekeeper replied before leaving. Roni fell into deep thought, ultimately dialing a number on his wristband. The call was quickly answered by a steady older voice, which sounded slightly irritated as if disturbed from a midday rest. Roni, what is it? Roni swallowed hard. Batik, help me. The tone on the other end immediately became solemn. Be clear. You can contact me. Why not mobilize the rapid response unit? Is it because of the previous incident that Parker wants to kill you? No, it's not him. It's about something else. I don't trust anyone else. I only trust you right now. Batik took a deep breath. Speak. Roni then recounted in detail his conversation with Beckett on the submarine, including the 2 women he sent and some strange occurrences. Batik, save me, Roni repeated, his voice tinged with a hint of desperate pleading. The line fell silent. Finally, Batik's voice returned, cold and piercing. Roni, you've gone too far. Why wait until now to mention such a significant matter? I thought I could handle it, Roni defended weakly. Handle it? You thought? Batik's voice rose sharply, filled with suppressed anger and incredulous mockery. Now you come to me for help. Is this your idea of handling it? Is this what you thought? As Batik continued, his frustration was palpable. Now that the Rabbit family's dogs have sniffed you out and seized your leverage, you only just think to ask for help? Roni was left speechless by the reprimand. You must immediately activate your senior authority, call for support from the orbital forces, and mobilize everyone under your command to eliminate this Beckett. Right now? Huh. Roni's throat tightened as he suddenly sat up. Kill him? But he is the envoy of the Marquis of Rabbit. If you kill him, what will happen with the Marquis? Kill him. It doesn't matter if he knows or not. Batik interrupted him sharply, his tone fierce. I'm sending someone to take over the scene right now. This is your only chance to atone for your mistakes and save your life. Call the orbital garrison. Your men might not even be able to kill him. But my position as a senior. Roni still held on to a glimmer of hope, his voice tinged with desperation. Your position as a senior. Batik seemed to find this utterly ridiculous, his anger instantly replaced by an extreme coldness. Juan Baloney, at this moment, you're still thinking about your power? If that's the case, why didn't you act when you sensed something was wrong? Why let him go? Now, our situation has probably spread throughout Rabbit. You are not just foolish, you are utterly foolish. I'm telling you, what you are doing now is enough for Kroon to send you to the family tribunal, strip you of everything, and then throw you into the lowest depths of the ice prison. Your only way out now is to do as I say. Maybe you can still find a way to survive. Batik, for the sake of my father, for the sake of both our factions, I never expected to end up like this. He protested, struggling in vain. It's precisely because of your father's achievements that I'm pointing you to this clear path. Batik interrupted him, his tone seemingly softening slightly, but a deeper chill still seeped through. Act immediately. Afterward, I will do my best to negotiate for you, to preserve your life and dignity. No, Batik. You have to help me. Batik took a deep breath, his tone becoming unfamiliar. Juan Bologna, please watch your words, from now on. You no longer have the right to call my name directly. Everything is over. The communication was ruthlessly cut off. Ronnie stood frozen, his gaze sweeping over the distant beauties frolicking, the graceful figure of the departing steward, and the enticing blind box of tonight's company, which included exotic treasures he had just spent a fortune to acquire and had yet to meet. The color drained from his plump face, his eyes widened, as a profound sense of absurdity and abandonment washed over him like the frigid tide of the glass sea. Why? A century of allied relations crumbled so easily in the face of interests and risks. He was a senior of the authority. There were only 24 of them among the 6 billion population of the Juan Bologna Autonomous Territory. Was it simply because he was an unenhanced primitive human that he deserved to fall to this? Why? How could a dignified senior like him possibly fail here? His body trembled slightly as he staggered down the glass platform, gazing at the azure sky and sea, bending down to grasp a handful of sand. Watching it slip through his fingers, Beckett's hypocritical face appeared in his mind. Beckett, it's that rabbit dog. If it weren't for his sudden appearance, bringing those deadly pieces of leverage, he would still be enjoying fine wine and beautiful women. How could Batik so casually discard him like trash? Hatred, like a poisonous vine, grew wildly, instantly wrapping around his heart, choking him to the brink of asphyxiation. His loathing for Beckett reached its peak, wishing he could devour him alive. Even without substantial evidence, it no longer mattered. Did Batik want him to call the orbital forces? No, absolutely not. The moment the orbital forces moved, it would surely alert the authorities and the council, and that would be a true trap. That old fox Batik was probably hoping for just that, to solidify the charges against him and clear himself of blame. This was not a way out. It was another trap set by Batik. Ronnie was not foolish enough to fall for that. There had to be a way to preserve his position in the council. Suddenly, Ronnie straightened up, his bloodshot eyes filled with a chaotic mix of anger and fear, fixated on the grains of sand slipping through his fingers, as if they represented his waning power and life. A mad and twisted thought took shape in his almost burnt-out mind, swelling and ultimately consuming all rationality. Killing Beckett to silence him was only the first step, a way to limit losses, a form of revenge. But that was far from enough. He needed to turn the tables. Batik had abandoned him because he had lost his value and become a burden? No. If he could just kill Beckett first, extract his brain, and see if there was any leakage, wouldn't that be enough? What if all of this was just a misunderstanding? Moreover, even if there was a leak, if he, one Ronnie, could turn the tables and capture the envoy of the Marquis of Rabbit, forcing him to reveal his conspiracy against Juan, or even turn Beckett into a pawn embedded within Rabbit's ranks, then Ronnie would no longer be a sinner, but a hero who turned the tide, uncovering treachery and achieving great merit for his family. The council would not only fail to remove him, but would also commend him. What would that old Batik's expression be then? His brother would have to look at him in a new light. Yes, let us do this. This thought grew like a toxic weed in his heart, filling his despairing, cold hands and feet with a sickly excitement. He completely ignored how fanciful this idea was, overlooked his lack of political wisdom and strength to deal with the envoy of the Marquis of Rabbit, and disregarded his primitive human nature. Unable to control his emotions and instincts, he was already obsessed, fixated solely on how to grasp the last straw and preserve the council seat he valued above life itself. Beckett, you think you can manipulate me? You think you can destroy me? Ronnie sneered softly, his face trembling with distorted emotions. Very well. I'll show you who the real hunter is. He contacted the housekeeper. Has Beckett left? A quick reply came. Still waiting. Ronnie chuckled, tapping on his wrist device, issuing a kill order to his agents. In less than a minute, Beckett would kneel before him, panicked and helpless. This damned hyena would be thoroughly tormented. The moment the order was issued, he could already envision himself parading the disheveled Beckett before the council, eloquently accepting the awe of everyone present. Humph, Batik. You think I'm foolish? Wait until I bring this great gift back. Let's see if you dare to talk to me like that again. He gritted his teeth at the air, as if Batik was right in front of him. He even began to calculate, after taking down Beckett. I can't just hand him over to the council. I need to pry open his mouth first, get enough substantial testimony. And it would be best if he could sign a cooperation agreement. Yes, that's it. By then, with both witnesses and evidence in hand, let us see who can still touch me. He was completely immersed in his own woven fantasies, blind to the impending bloody conflict and the enormous risks behind it. He seemed no longer the pampered, overweight elder, but a shrewd strategist on the verge of a stunning turnaround. Above the sky, a multitude of star-like sparks appeared. Those were the orbital airdrop troops of the Zhuangbai family, capable of landing anywhere in Carthage within 3 minutes. Humph, Batik. Roni coldly observed. These people must have been summoned by Batik. Roni waited for time to pass, straightened his slightly disheveled silk robe, and tried to restore a hint of the elder's composure and dignity to his distorted expression, although the fervor and murderous intent in his eyes were still hard to conceal. He stepped toward the reception hall of the manor, deliberately walking with a steady pace. The iridescent monsoon swept through the columns, bringing faint sounds of laughter from distant girls. This scene, which used to bring him joy, now felt as if separated by a layer of frosted glass, blurry and unreal. His entire mind was tied to this upcoming dramatic reversal. However, when he pushed open the heavy door of the reception hall, inlaid with glass and mother of pearl, the anticipated scene of death warriors controlling the situation and the target in terror did not appear. Time seemed to freeze. A sickly sweet smell of blood filled the air. His lavish blue coral hall had now turned into a battlefield. Scattered on the ground were the death warriors he had meticulously trained, all dressed in dark combat uniforms, now resembling torn dolls, with severed limbs strewn everywhere. Blood soaked into the precious cashmere carpet. There were no signs of fierce fighting. It was more like a silent, overwhelming massacre. The captain of his most trusted death warriors lay closest to the door, eyes wide open, staring blankly at the painted dome above. With only a small hole in his throat, clearly a fatal blow. In the center of the hall, on the large chair carved from a single piece of blue coral, which he used to host the most esteemed guests, Lord Beckett was lounging leisurely. He still wore the dark formal attire from his meeting with Lu Ling, relaxed in posture, and even had a faint, chilling smile playing at the corners of his mouth. What made Roni's eyes want to burst and his blood freeze instantly was the sight of his beautiful housekeeper, whom he regarded as a forbidden treasure, kneeling disheveled at Beckett's feet. Her long hair was in disarray, her cheeks flushed abnormally, as she adopted a posture of near-servile humility that Roni had never seen before. Bowing her head and burying it between Beckett's legs, performing an indecent act of service. Her body trembled slightly, whether from fear or something else, she couldn't tell. One of Beckett's hands casually rested on her disheveled hair, as if he were petting a beloved animal. Say hello to your master, shall we? Sorry, The housekeeper let out a vague whimper, pausing slightly but not daring to look up. Beckett lifted his eyelids, his eyes, usually filled with humble warmth, now sharp as knives, piercing deep into Roni's soul. He gently patted the housekeeper's head, signaling her to continue, before fully turning his attention to Roni, who stood frozen at the door. Elder Roni. Beckett's voice even carried a hint of mockery. Your hospitality is truly unique. First you send these ill-mannered shadows to welcome me, and now you have your chief steward personally come to soothe my frightened emotions? He paused, the curve of his mouth widening. However, I must say I'm quite satisfied with your chief steward. With such excellent service, it's no wonder people say you're reluctant to enhance your genes or control your lower half. After all, living such a divine life every day. Slow down. Boom. Roni's mind went blank, his slightly plump face turning a deep shade of purple and quickly fading to a sickly pale. His death warriors, his last resort, were so easily crushed, like ants. The housekeeper, whom he considered his property, had actually submitted in such a humiliating manner at the feet of the enemy. This enormous, cruel gap in reality struck him like a heavy hammer, shattering all his fantasies and hopes. What reversal? What merit? What position of elder? In that moment, they all became an incredibly glaring joke. No, he still had a backup plan. He still had the aerial assault troops. Run. At the moment he turned, a shadow flashed before him, a merciless iron hand gripping his throat. The helpless sensation of suffocation hit him. Roni's desire to become a new human had never been so intense. He regretted it immensely. Just then, a sharp whistle sounded from outside. Dozens of assault boats, painted with the insignia of the Gyovamb Eagle, hovered above the estate like burning meteors, their powerful engine blasts causing the plants in the courtyard to sway violently. Hundreds of powered armor units roared down, followed by thousands of exoskeletal armored assault troops sliding down the descent cables. The reinforcements called by Batik had arrived. A glimmer of hope ignited in Roni's eyes. Rescue. As long as, however, Beckett didn't even lift an eyelid, merely nodding slightly to the silent driver beside him, who appeared like a shadow. Roni, if you want to die, feel free to let them in. At that moment, Roni's communicator buzzed with a call. Elder Roni, my unit has arrived. All hubs have been secured. Please report the situation on site. Roni's gaze turned to the leisurely Beckett, scanning the bodies of the dead warriors on the ground and the still busy housekeeper. Overwhelming fear, humiliation, and helplessness ultimately crushed everything. He gathered all his strength and calmed himself. Everything is fine here. I called you over just to make my exotic beauty smile. You can go now. There was silence on the other end of the communicator for a few seconds, clearly catching the commander off guard. For the elders, they have no authority to use any surveillance equipment to invade the privacy of the elders. That is a capital offense. However, This commander was quite astute and detected a hint of blood in the air. Do you not understand what Elder Lonnie is saying? Get lost. Understood. The troops are withdrawing. The commander sighed and uploaded the report to Cruin. Strangely, the Count actually allowed them to listen to Elder Lonnie. There's nothing we can do about it. These nobles really play a different game. Time to wrap up. The hovering assault boat's engines roared again as it began to ascend, quickly disappearing into the sky. Meanwhile, in the luxurious estate, Lonnie's hopes were completely dashed. The driver let go, and Lonnie, feeling drained of all strength, stumbled backward and fell against the cold doorframe, gasping for breath, his eyes vacant. Beckett exhaled deeply, gently pushed aside the housekeeper in front of him, elegantly adjusted his trousers, and stood up, straightening his jacket. He approached Lonnie, looking down at the utterly broken man. Lonnie, you are truly weak. If I were you, I would rather die than surrender the family's dignity. Lonnie looked up and stood up. Weak? You are merely enhanced humans. If you were in my position, you would have already wet yourself. You're not wrong, but this is also your own fault, isn't it? Beckett shrugged, unable to deny it. He had specifically enhanced his emotional nerves, and ordinary fear no longer affected him. Retaining human flaws has its benefits, but one day, anger and desire will overwhelm rationality, leading to disaster. Lonnie fell silent. Let's go, Elder Lonnie. The driver grabbed him and roughly shoved him into the black hovercar parked in the garage. The car door closed, completely isolating him from the shimmering light of the glass sea, the breath of the colorful monsoon, and the luxurious dreams he had built throughout his life. Whoosh. At that moment, the housekeeper collapsed to the ground, a new hole in her neck. 3 minutes later, Batik personally led another orbital unit into the estate, only to find a scene of carnage and learn the details of the prior events and the combat report from the previous orbital unit. Lonnie, you bastard. Batik could no longer hide his composed demeanor and erupted in anger. He knew that damn Lonnie had acted recklessly again. Just then, a communication from Cruin made Batik's pupils constrict, and he quickly calmed down. He exhaled slowly, taking a deep look at the chaos around him. Clean this place up and make room for the next elder. Yes. Chapter 170. The Void's Thorn in Deep Space. A transport ship belonging to the Rabbit Bio Group lay in wait. Inside the bridge, the lighting was dim, with only the flickering blue light of the control panel illuminating Lord Beckett's cold face. He hadn't planned to reveal his hand so soon. But that fool Lonnie dared to launch an attack with those pathetic dead soldiers on his territory. It had completely disrupted his plans. This had long exceeded the bounds of provocation. It was a direct insult to his and the Rabbit family's dignity. Since the facade of peace had been torn away, there was no need to hide his malice any longer. Clumsy and loved to play. He glanced at Ronnie, who was slumped in the seat beside him. The former elder's face was pale, and his hefty body trembled slightly from weightlessness and fear, his hands gripping the armrests tightly. This was his first real departure from the planet's atmosphere, stepping into the vast, endless, and heart-pounding dark void. Ronnie, Beckett's voice broke the silence, carrying a hint of cold amusement. Do you really think you can return to the Senate after making such a big scene? Ronnie swallowed hard, his throat dry and painful, his heart racing as if it wanted to break free from his chest. He forced himself to lift his head, despite waves of dizziness crashing over him, and struggled to maintain the last shred of an elder's dignity. His voice trembled just slightly, yet was exceptionally firm. Why can't I? I am an elder formally recognized by the Senate. My seat is guaranteed by the Carthaginian Constitution and Family Code. As long as I return to Carthage and step into the Senate chamber, no one can take away my identity. Not even Count Cruin. You rabbits have no right to interfere in the internal affairs of Juanbai. Ronnie had calmed down now. The consequences of his impulsiveness had already cooled. He knew what Beckett wanted, and if he admitted to losing his seat in front of him, he could become a cold corpse in the next moment. His identity as an elder was his last shield, and he couldn't expose his communication with Batik. Beckett looked at him quietly, but Ronnie became agitated, his voice rising. Without a formal investigation and trial by the Senate's disciplinary committee, no one can convict me. I am still an elder. I still have the right to access certain resources and participate in core decisions. Lord Beckett did not immediately refute him, as the main event was about to begin. Elder Ronnie, I invite you to watch the show. He stood up, no longer looking at Ronnie, his gaze directed towards the ship's enormous main viewport, into the deep, boundless darkness, dotted only with starlight. Ronnie's heart tightened suddenly, a chill more piercing than the cold of deep space crawling up his spine. He vaguely sensed that what Beckett was about to reveal was no ordinary sight. The transport ship began to glide silently towards a preset coordinate, surrounded by a shattered asteroid belt, where massive ice rock mixtures floated like silent tombstones in eternal silence. This was a route not marked on the public star charts of Juanbai, but a special one. Launch. The officer, the original captain, immediately input a series of complex commands on the control panel. At the top of the transport ship, Beckett's driver retrieved 3 silver-white metallic columns, about the thickness of an arm, their surfaces covered with intricate blue energy circuits. Their shapes were highly aggressive, resembling the tips of some high-tech spears, emanating a cold metallic sheen and a faint pulse of energy. This was the Empire's descent technology, reverse-engineered from the relics of the pioneers. It was a strategically controlled piece of equipment that could forcibly tear through the hyperspace barrier, opening a temporary, controllable jump beacon channel. Only ships equipped with the corresponding jump engine could respond to this beacon. It was typically used for emergency transport across star constellations. The technical officer skillfully loaded 3 beacons into the ship's launch bay, ready for descent. 3 response signals. In the bridge, the officer reported. Beckett's finger hovered over the launch button. He turned his head slightly, catching a glimpse of Roni's pale face, and smirked. Lord Roni, this is far more interesting than those boring votes in the Senate. His finger pressed down. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The encryption program quickly verified, and 3 descent lances erupted with a torrent of energy, shooting towards 3 different preset coordinates at an astonishing speed, precisely hovering in the void, forming a massive equilateral triangle. In an instant, a low hum resonated through the transport ship's armor and shielding, violently crashing into Roni's eardrum and insides. Beckett also felt overwhelmed, deciding that this matter must immediately elevate the genetic level. In the void, the energy circuits on the surfaces of the 3 beacons erupted with dazzling ultramarine light, beginning to spin wildly, their speed reaching levels that optical radar couldn't capture. Space began to warp, rippling with intense folds, light being stretched and bent, forming bizarre halos. Then, 3 enormous shapes, with edges flickering with arcs of blue, violent energy, surged forth, revealing chaotic energy turbulence and indescribable color streams within. Roni's mouth gaped, his breath halted, his eyes nearly bulging out in horror. He clutched the handrail tightly, his body shaking uncontrollably. This was a terrifying sight he had never witnessed before. Pure power tearing through the fabric of space. These 3 hyperspace rifts were suddenly stretched to their limits. The next moment, 3 immense, pitch-black silhouettes, each 11 kilometers long, erupted from the rifts like steel beasts escaping from the abyss. They were completely matte black, bearing no insignia. Their ship designs were sharp, exuding an absolute sense of power and cold killing intent, bringing an overwhelming sense of oppression. This is a Thunderstorm-class assault battleship, Roni naturally deduced from the subtle features, realizing what Beckett intended to do. You're insane. Summoning your battleships in the territory of Zhuanbai. What are you planning? To attack our transport ship, is it? Aren't you afraid of Imperial sanctions, afraid of the Marquis of Jinlan behind us in Zhuanbai? Roni's voice was sharp and hoarse from extreme fear and anger, nearly jumping out of his seat, but the seatbelt held him tightly. Beckett, however, ignored his roar, his gaze firmly locked on the 3 warships, now fully revealed like abyssal beasts outside the viewport, his eyes gleaming with a near-manic, pathological excitement. This is the power I command, he paused, raising his voice. Elder Roni, this is not a battleship of Rabbit, but you. The Silverwing resistance you hired with a fortune attacked your own family's transport ship. Your heart is despicable. All because of your jealousy and greed. Roni completely lost his composure. What are you talking about? Shoo, Beckett gestured for silence. Elder Roni, stop pretending. It's being recorded. You. At that moment, the 3 Dark Storm-class battleships completed their transition tunnel effect and began deploying their transition interception devices. In Longni's eyes, these devices were the whispers of death's arrival. He knew that from this moment on, he was completely bound to the war chariot of the Rabbit family by that madman Beckett. The spatial interference device was released 3 minutes and 53 seconds ahead of schedule, reported the officer. A more powerful and suffocating transition interference field suddenly spread out like an invisible tsunami, its intensity far exceeding the disruption capabilities of conventional warships, effectively locking this space down completely. If Longni could understand, he would see the spatial distortion coefficient had soared to a frightening level of over 15, glowing red and blinding. This meant that the route had been completely blocked, and all ships passing through this area would be forcibly pulled out of transition and fall into a death trap that had long been set. The madman Longni slumped down. You bunch of complete lunatics. Chapter 171. The Blood Oath. More than 3 minutes later, a blinding flash of transition tore through the darkness, followed by a transport ship that had just exited transition and was still in a brief navigation calibration state, being violently yanked from hyperspace by this overwhelming force field, appearing in front of everyone in a panic. It was a medium-sized transport ship adorned with the Zhuao Bei Eagle emblem and a conspicuous tax department insignia, tasked with carrying out Zhuao Bei's top-secret transport mission. This route was only known to the Zhuao Bei Naval Headquarters and the Colossi Customs and was supposed to be foolproof. The crew on board was clearly thrown into disarray by this sudden attack, but soon exhibited the professional qualities of elite artificial humans, quickly calibrating their posture to prepare for a counterattack. When Longmi saw that familiar emblem, his pupils constricted and his breathing quickened. Stop. You can't do this. This is our tax money submitted to the Empire. Are you all out of your minds? No, no. He let out a heart-wrenching scream of despair. You can't. Beckett, stop. Stop it. If you take action, our families will be irreconcilable. He frantically tried to unbuckle his seatbelt and lunge towards the control panel, but was firmly pressed back into his seat by the bridge guards. Beckett finally turned slowly, looking at the completely broken Longmi, his face devoid of any expression. Elder Longmi, weren't you the one instructing us to attack? You're talking nonsense. I didn't. Longmi's rebuttal was calmly interrupted by Beckett. Don't worry, Elder Longmi. By the time the Empire or Marquis Jinlan comes to check, it will be months later. And by then you will be living a life in Rabbit that is even more wonderful than now. The reflection of destruction flickered in Longmi's pupils. The 3 dark Storm-class battleships unleashed a scorching barrage of fire, the bright white light trailing kilometers behind, weaving into a net of death that instantly enveloped the Zhoao Bay currency transport ship. The weak shield energy flickered visibly, barely holding for less than 3 seconds before shattering with a loud bang. The subsequent attack directly tore through the fragile armor, with explosions bursting forth like dazzling and cruel fireworks from various parts of the ship's hull, sending metal fragments and bodies hurtling into the cold vacuum. The ship's engines were precisely penetrated and detonated by several missiles, transforming into a massive fireball. A complete silence ensued. In the face of overwhelming force, the transport ship was effortlessly shredded, helplessly floating in the vacuum, breaking apart, and ultimately becoming a slowly expanding, cold grave composed of metal debris and congealed blood. Inside the bridge, only the heavy and desperate breaths of Roni could be heard, along with his uncontrollable, beast-like gasps. Beckett quietly savored the feast of destruction until the distant flames began to fade, before slowly turning to look at the utterly disheartened Roni. Roni, you truly are despicable. Having orchestrated such a premeditated attack and betrayed your own kin, Beckett said, standing over him. Even I, an outsider, am shocked. Roni's body trembled violently, sweat soaking through his silk robe. He opened his mouth but could produce no sound. Only gasping noises escaped his throat. Outside the viewport, the wreckage, formed from his family's tax ship, continued to burn quietly, each spark seeming to sear his soul. After a long pause, he seemed to have been drained of all strength, slumping in his seat. Just say it. What do you want? Beckett smiled slightly, but there was no warmth in that smile. He gestured for the guards to release Roni and personally handed him a cup of invigorating tea. It's not about what we want, Elder Roni. It's about the choices that reality demands of us. He swirled the glass in his hand. The wreckage of this ship will become irrefutable evidence of your betrayal. The senators will eagerly send you to trial to cleanse the family's shame. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice, but before the truth is revealed, you will need to use this facade to stir up the Senate. Roni suddenly looked up. You still want me to go back? Of course, Beckett's smile widened. Soon, news of the tax ship's attack will reach Zhuangbai. What you need to do is take the initiative to accuse certain factions of colluding with external enemies to create chaos. For example, blame Parker for conspiring with outsiders to use the treasury funds, ideally freezing his heir's position. You need not worry about your escape route. Beckett patted Roni's shoulder. The pressure just right. The Rabbite family appreciates intelligent individuals who understand the times. What you lose is merely the empty title of a small place. But you can gain something more substantial, like real power and the wealth to match it. The Rabbite family is vast. What does a small Zhuangbai matter? Right, Count Roni? Roni looked up sharply. Are you saying? Our Marquis greatly appreciates you and is willing to grant you the title of Count. Beckett leaned in closer, whispering. Though it is not hereditary, it will be enough for you to enjoy your later years. After all, your descendants will have their own fortune, won't they? He patted Roni's shoulder again, neither too light nor too heavy. Consider the ship as a sacrifice for our new endeavor, a pledge of loyalty. Roni fell silent. He looked out at the cold remnants outside the window, then turned to Beckett, whose eyes seemed to hide a knife behind a smile. He knew he had no choice. Refusing would mean instantly turning into another cloud of cosmic dust, while accepting would lead him down an irreversible dark path, but at least he could survive. Even live more abundantly than before. The immense fear and greater greed ultimately consumed him. He took a deep breath, as if using all his strength, and downed the tea in his cup. Lord Beckett, you truly are a talent. Half an hour later, there was no presence in the airspace. A cruiser jumped in, picking up a shipping container filled with star coins from the wreckage before leaving clear traces behind. Corasyllabit 2 Deep Space Acceleration Orbit, Imperial Customs Space Station Number 37. At Spaceport 7, aboard the luxurious passenger ship Freedom Eagle, in the VIP waiting room, Strain looked at the hundreds of family members behind him. Including over 16 mistresses and more than 20 children, Their faces a mix of anticipation and anxiety for the unknown journey ahead, chattering about the new life about to begin. The children were chasing and playing, while the mistresses compared the jewelry and fine clothes they had purchased for their new lives. Some even studying travel guides for the rabbit dominion. In the end, he could not resist the bone-chilling fear and the implications of the envoy's words. A week ago, he had nervously uploaded the confidential route regarding the Junbi transport ship into the secure file left by the envoy. After doing so, he felt drained. Cold sweat soaking his shirt. He quickly exchanged 5,000 star coins and transferred them to a local bank in Rabbit, with the account holder being one of his most favored mistresses. With the Rabbit family's discreet connections, he easily secured VIP tickets for the large family, even including extra space for pet transport and a large amount of luggage. The following days were calm, but the tension in his heart grew tighter. He knew that if he were to run away alone, with his years of connections and accumulated savings, he could likely disappear without a trace. However, he couldn't bear to leave. He couldn't bear to part with the soft life built on power and wealth. Nor could he abandon the family that relied on him and that he had control over. With no way out, he had to bet everything, gambling that the threat from Rabbit was merely intimidation, that his value could buy him a way to survive, and even gamble on the elusive hope of protection. Attention passengers. The Freedom Eagle heading to the Rabbit Second Dominion is about to begin final boarding procedures. First-class passengers, please board through the VIP channel. A sweet and reassuring voice echoed through the broadcast. It's leaving. We're boarding. Dad, look, it's our spaceship. I heard there's even an amusement park on board. A water park. The children shouted excitedly, while the mistresses linked their arms with his, surrounding him like a magnificent tide, flowing towards the boarding passage that symbolized liberation. Strain took a deep breath, trying to suppress the last bit of unease, forcing a slightly authoritative smile onto his face as the head of the family. Patted the head of his youngest son and stepped forward. Now, only the final step remains. Just step onto that ship. Just begin the leap. A cold voice echoed behind him. Dad, someone is calling you. Uncle, my dad is here. Strained smile froze on his face, and his footsteps abruptly halted. He slowly, agonizingly turned around, as if his blood had frozen at that moment. 6 men, wearing the insignia of the Imperial Customs Integrity Bureau, silently appeared and blocked their path. Commissioner Strain, the leader, whose face was as hard as iron, took out his credentials and arrest warrant. By the joint authorization of the Director of the Coral Sea Customs Integrity Bureau and the Imperial Court of Coral Sea, you are formally arrested, along with all your direct relatives and associates, on charges of bribery, dereliction of duty, leaking noble secrets, and the crime of having unexplained sources of wealth. No, you have made a mistake. I am innocent. I am a loyal public servant of the Empire. Strain shouted hoarsely. I want to contact my lawyer. I want to appeal to the governor's office. This is a setup. The leading agent showed no sign of emotion, merely raising his chin slightly. 2 agents immediately stepped forward and roughly twisted Strain's hands behind his back. With a click, the specially designed magnetic restraints locked in place, the cold touch instantly extinguishing his last hopes. Other agents swiftly pounced on his family like wolves. Dad, husband, help me. What are you doing? Let me go? The children's terrified cries, the mistress's screams, and the sounds of struggle instantly replaced the earlier joy. Expensive suitcases were knocked over, jewels and fine clothes scattered everywhere, like their suddenly shattered dreams of escape. The entire VIP waiting room descended into chaos, other travelers quickly retreating, curiously watching the scene, which soon became crowded. I'm sorry. Commissioner Strain, you know what you have done. The leading agent's voice was steady. This arrest warrant involves the nobility of the Empire, and the lower house has already signed the charter. In matters like this, a lawyer is of no use. This statement rang in Strain's ears like the final toll of a bell. He completely collapsed, his face ashen, allowing the agents to lift him. The last thing he saw was the desperate look in the eyes of his favorite mistress as she was forcibly dragged away, and the sight of his youngest son being carried off by an expressionless female agent, crying out, "It's over. Everything is over. These damned nobles never intended to fulfill any promises." In the distance, the envoy Rabbit slowly emerged, watching coldly. Strain, oh Strain, I originally thought you were a smart man, but unexpectedly, you were blinded by desire. We never promised to protect your whole family. It's really a waste of my 5,000 star coins. Someone next to him patted his shoulder. Brother Smith, forget it. We still have 995,000, right? Anyway, the matter is resolved. Has the Marquis ever taken back the money he gave out? These people always have a delusion of persecution. It's useless for us to talk until we're blue in the face, isn't it? Hey, Commissioner Gong. I say next time just give these mud-legged folks a few hundred to send them on their way. Absolutely right. They couldn't grasp it. After returning, I will truthfully report to my former leader about Smith. You are becoming more skilled now. Commissioner Gong, you're too kind. To be honest, when I first started, I was extremely anxious. Now, I just want to improve with all my heart. Not bad, not bad. As the saying goes in Longhua, a child can be taught. This is largely thanks to your guidance, Commissioner Gong. Hee. Chapter 172. Greed leads to destruction. Almost at the same time that Strain and his large family were escorted away from the space station by the Integrity Agency's convoy. Far away in the deep space acceleration orbit of Zhuangbai, at the 176th Imperial Customs Space Station, an alarm rang out. The piercing alarm shattered the tranquility of the space station without warning, instantly engulfing the entire 176th facility and several acceleration routes. The red emergency lights flashed frantically, casting an ominous hue over everything. Emergency situation announcement. Emergency situation announcement. Direct orders from the naval headquarters of the Pasha Empire, the governor of Colossi, and the Imperial Colossi Security Bureau, effective immediately. All routes towards the Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory are under indefinite absolute blockade. All vessels are strictly prohibited from departing. Vessels that have already jumped into the area must immediately accept forced guidance and boarding inspections. Repeat. Absolute blockade. Any attempts to challenge this ban will be regarded as armed resistance against the authority of the Empire, and all necessary means will be authorized for destruction. All customs and port facilities are to be immediately handed over to naval control. All personnel must immediately comply with the orders of the Imperial Navy. The entire space station seemed to be instantly frozen, with millions of passengers, employees, and crew members thrown into a state of panic. What happened? What's going on? I don't know. It's under martial law. What exactly is happening? In the port area, all vessels preparing to depart or just arriving were forcibly intercepted. Communication channels were completely taken over and blocked by the strong signals of the Imperial Navy, cutting off any non-military communications ruthlessly. Outside the massive observation dome of the space station, an even more suffocating scene was unfolding. In the originally empty space, countless jump flashes lit up like dazzling stars. An endless stream. One after another, enormous Imperial Navy warships emerged from the space corridor, gathering towards the acceleration route. This was not an ordinary Imperial patrol fleet. They were painted in dark gold and reddish gray, heavily armored, with numerous turrets. Among them were over 100 active Imperial Holy Blood-class battleships, hundreds of Prayer-class battlecruisers, and thousands of Discipline-class cruisers. The sheer number seemed endless. The jump flashes had yet to cease. People inside the space station were filled with shock and confusion. All external communications had been completely cut off. Someone managed to discern, trembling, this is the Pasha Empire Navy. The Coxus Constellation. The First Holy Legion of Colossi. Oh my god, what major event is happening in Zhuangbai? Carthage Star, Zhuangbai City, Zhuangbai Building, Senate Chamber. The Senate Chamber, with its high dome, was now shrouded in a heavy silence. The past family strategies, development directions, and the debate arena where discussions were gathered now seemed to be completely frozen by an invisible icy storm. The 24 elders, along with Count Kruen and the First Heir Parker, are all present. The news of the Jome tax transport ship being raided and destroyed on the outskirts of the Dominion has sparked an uproar within the Senate. The loss of 50 million star coins in cash and the death of over 1,000 elite artificial crew members have sent a chilling wave of anger and fear through every elder present. Count Kruen's face turned ashen. Gaddis fiddled with her bracelet, her slender legs gently swinging in the second elder's seat. In the center, the intelligence officer was recounting the investigation results, with a holographic screen displaying two figures, Rachel and Renki. In the holographic image, Rachel's face, twisted in a cruel smile, was magnified as his son Renki poured a box of steel blue star coins onto the ground. Rachel casually grabbed 7 or 8 coins, letting the shining pieces slip through his fingers, producing a jarring clatter. The scum of Jome. Rachel's voice, processed through a loudspeaker, echoed with an arrogant electromagnetic distortion in the silent chamber. I, Rachel, graciously accept this tax. Thank you for your generosity, especially to one of your friends. Ha! The image abruptly cut off. 30 minutes. Right at our doorstep. Where's our fleet? Where's our stellar early warning system? Are they all asleep? An elder slammed the table in anger. Who exactly is this friend he mentioned? A disgrace. This is an unprecedented humiliation for the Jome family in 2,000 years. 50 million Imperial tax coins were raided on our own territory. Parker took a deep breath and turned his icy gaze to Ronnie. Rachel is right. There's a traitor in our family. What do you think, Uncle Ronnie? Ronnie, seated, was taken aback and felt a twinge of panic. But years of composure quickly calmed him down. He secretly glanced at Batik, saw no reaction from him, and felt slightly reassured. It seems Beckett has cleaned up his tracks. With this thought, Ronnie regained confidence. Parker, he said, his tone warning, mind your words. Mind my words. Parker suddenly stood up, shouting fiercely. He should have died in the breadbasket, but you sent someone to rescue him. Now he has run off and is robbing our tax ship. You want me to mind my words? Why is he still alive? Why can he appear there? Don't you know better than I do? He turned sharply, his gaze slicing through the elder assembly. Are you all so curious about my dealings with the Federation guests? Is it tacitly approved for Ronnie to interfere with my plans? The elders fell silent. Ronnie felt a pang of anxiety, his face slightly flushing. Joan Parker, you are outrageous. Everything I do is for the family. My loyalty to the family is as clear as day. You used the first heir's power to misappropriate 500 million star coins without sufficient deliberation from the elders. Do we elders not even have the right to know? Is this family governed by you or by the collective decision of the Senate? Ronnie looked at all the elders, his voice filled with indignation. Ladies and gentlemen, you all saw it. Just because I upheld the responsibilities of an elder and questioned Mr. Parker about his huge transaction with an unknown individual who claims to be from some elusive federation, he is targeting me like this. He pointed at Parker, his finger trembling with excitement. Federation? Who knows if that's just a cover for some hostile force against us? Shouldn't the items exchanged for 500 million star coins undergo the strictest verification? What is wrong with me sending people to check the safety and origin of the goods? Should we wait until he sells the entire family to that mysterious guest before we can intervene? Now that something has gone wrong, he wants to throw the blame on me, merely to cover up his own foolishness and failure. Some elders looked surprised. Count Clurin had a blank expression. Gaddis cast a cursory glance. Batik coldly watched Ronnie's performance. Parker, upon hearing this, laughed in anger. Verification? Elder Ronnie, your verification is sending people to sabotage my plan and let a doomed person escape? Then, after that, you got the information you wanted. And my father let you handle it. Why is Rachel still alive? Even to this day, how has the family suffered such humiliation? As soon as these words were spoken, almost all the elders turned to look, puzzled. Who would have thought there was more to this? Ronnie chuckled and manipulated his wrist device, transmitting data to the main screen. On it, the scene of Rachel and Re-Ink being executed was displayed. Parker, one must speak with evidence. What my brother asked me to do, I naturally completed without delay. And there are records to verify it. But you, entangled in confusion, I have to question your motives now. Ronnie's voice rose progressively. Now I can reasonably speculate. Is it possible that you and your mysterious friend from the Federation staged this play together? Where did those 500 million star coins go? Is it simply that you two colluded to empty the family treasury and then staged a robbery, continuing to drain the family? Otherwise, with the so-called advanced technology you bought from that friend, how could you not even stop a pirate ship? Of course, one must speak with evidence. I also said it was a reasonable speculation. Parker was thoroughly enraged by this shameless act of turning the tables. Old fool, Juan Beilong and I. You pig that has gnawed through the family. Despicable and shameless scoundrel. Even though Ronnie was usually composed, being publicly insulted by a younger generation nearly overwhelmed his rationality with anger. Fortunately, he learned from experience and quickly calmed down, retorting, "What? Parker, did I hit the nail on the head? You want to make a move, right? Come on, I'm scared of you. Today, I'll show you why the flowers are so red." The scene instantly spiraled out of control as Parker jumped onto the elder's long table and, amidst the astonished gazes of everyone, lunged towards Ronnie, about to grab his collar. Ronnie screamed, trying to dodge, creating an extremely awkward scene. Some elders hurriedly stood up, looking worried, while others watched coldly, showing disgust. Some squinted, scrutinizing the two of them. Something seemed off with Ronnie. What had he taken? Why is he stubbornly clashing with the first heir? What benefits does he gain from this? It's just a transport ship, a loss of 50 million. It's a considerable amount. But now that there is trouble in the family, everyone has enjoyed the benefits for so long. Contributing a little from each person should be enough. It doesn't make sense. Batik closed his eyes in disappointment. Just at that moment, when tensions were high and a physical conflict seemed imminent, a thunderous yell suddenly erupted, filled with unquestionable authority and overwhelming anger. Count Cruin finally stood up, his gaze icy. Parker's movements froze instantly, his fists clenched, chest heaving violently, but he slowly relaxed, though his eyes remained fixed on the crumpled Ronnie on the ground, as if he wanted to devour him alive. Ronnie, as if he had found a savior, crawled to the other end of the long table, pointing at Parker and shouting, "Brother, did you see that? He dared to act in the Senate. Does he have no respect for family law and rules?" Cruin's gaze first fell on Ronnie, and the indifferent coldness in his eyes choked all of Ronnie's complaints and accusations in his throat, filling him with an inexplicable fear. "Parker, step down. The Senate is not a place for you to run wild. If this continues, you will be held accountable under family law." Parker first looked at his father, then sighed, reluctantly returning to his seat, but his gaze remained sharp, fixed on Ronnie. The meeting hall fell silent, leaving only Ronnie's heavy and slightly panicked breathing. All the elders' eyes darted back and forth between Cruin, Parker, and Ronnie, the air thick with suspicion and tension. From this moment on, it was no longer just a matter of tax theft or a sovereign disgrace. It involved the conflict between the main family and the collateral branches. Ronnie steadied himself, realizing this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that he must seize. He suppressed his inner unease, straightened his disheveled collar, and, with a mix of grievance and righteous indignation, addressed the elders again. Gentlemen, you have all seen it. Master Parker's words and actions today have completely lost the calm and responsibility expected of a first heir. Not only did he slander a loyal elder without evidence, but he also attempted to take the law into his own hands in the sacred Senate chamber. This trend must not continue. As Ronnie spoke, an inexplicable surge of blood rushed to his head, and his voice suddenly rose. He proposed the motion suggested by Beckett. For the stability and future of the family, I, Juanby Ronnie, hereby formally propose to suspend Parker's qualification as the first heir. This will take effect immediately until this incident is fully investigated, and his decision-making ability and character are reassessed. At this proposal, the entire room was shocked. Even Ronnie, the proposer, felt a twinge of disbelief. What is happening? How did I say that? This proposal was too radical, almost equivalent to declaring direct war on the Count's faction. However, to everyone's astonishment, after a brief silence, Batik was the first to vote. I agree. Ronnie was momentarily taken aback, but then a wave of almost dizzying joy overwhelmed him. Indeed, as long as the elder's seat is secure, Batik will always be his loyal ally. But this is just the beginning. Once the ice is broken, the assembly hall seems to have been struck by a heated branding iron, instantly boiling over. A voice sharply interjects, coming from Otto, the elder in charge of the family's rare metal trade. He is a staunch supporter of Gerda's. Ronnie's gaze shifts to the seat next to Clurin, where Gerda's remains fiddling with her bracelet, seemingly indifferent. Another elder, Edgar, slowly raises his hand, his voice low. He represents the family's most conservative pure-blood faction and has always harbored deep doubts and resistance towards Parker's close cooperation with unknown forces. In his view, Parker's temperament has changed significantly since interacting with that person, and he indeed requires a necessary period of calm reflection. Following him, the third and fourth elders also raise their hands. Young Master Parker truly needs to cultivate his temperament further. These elders are not specifically targeting Parker, nor do they necessarily believe Ronnie's accusations. The key point is that Parker has indeed lost his composure today and deserves a thorough reprimand. Money can be earned again. Taxes can be compensated, but the one who leads the family must be resolute, calm, and strategic. Only such a leader aligns with their interests. Parker's face gradually pales. Count Clurin remains expressionless, his gaze calmly sweeping over each elder raising their hand. Of course, there are dissenting opinions as well. Ronnie's accusations equally lack evidence. In this moment of crisis, is it too hasty to suspend the heir's qualifications? It may provoke external speculation and destabilize the family's foundation. It is precisely in times of crisis that one cannot allow an impulsive person, who might invite disaster, to lead the family. Ronnie immediately retorts sharply, as he is now in a difficult position and must push the proposal through. At this moment, Gerdas finally speaks. As one of the senior elders, her words carry weight. There is no problem with Parker's cooperation. This statement hits Ronnie like a slap in the face, causing his heart to sink, while also setting the tone. However, this white-haired girl quickly adds, Ronnie's proposal is also acceptable. What? The elders exchange glances, confusion evident in their eyes. What's going on? A motion is put forth to temporarily freeze Parker's first-in-line inheritance rights. Gerdas raises her small hand, a glint of cunning flashing in her eyes as she looks at Parker. Ultimately, the voting results are confirmed. Votes in favor of suspending Parker's heir qualifications, 11. Votes against, 7. Abstentions, 7. Although the Count does not have voting rights, he holds a veto on routine and strategic matters. However, these matters do not include the deposition of the first-in-line heir. This is likely the reason the ancestors established the Council of Elders, to prevent future generations from producing wastrels. If the elders do not agree, then even if someone ascends to power, there will be no one to assist them, rendering it futile. Therefore, it does not matter whether the Count votes or not. Chapter 173. The uproar in the Senate. The voting within the Senate has concluded. Ronnie's face blossomed with joy and disbelief, his body trembling slightly with excitement. He had succeeded. He had actually done it. But he quickly realized that the eyes of the elders who voted in favor, including Bardic, did not hold admiration or support, but rather a cold indifference, as if looking at a fool or a discarded pawn. Their approval was based on their own political calculations and interests, not on any recognition of Ronnie himself. This foolish move of his had effectively disrupted the internal balance of the Juam, but it had also completely exposed him, making him a target. No one wanted to be used. This realization hit him like a bucket of cold water, instantly dousing his fervor and casting a heavy shadow of chill over him. Humph, you shallow-minded individuals, just wait until I become Count Rabbit, and then you will be the ones seeking my favor. Count Cruin observed everything. He slowly stood up, his gaze calmly sweeping across the room, finally landing on Roni, whose expression was shifting like the weather, and on Parker, who had calmed down. Parker, your impulsiveness and loss of composure have temporarily cost you your status as heir, and that is the price you must pay. His voice revealed no emotion, as if the one whose qualifications had just been suspended was not his son. But then he shifted his tone, his voice suddenly becoming serious and oppressive. However, your accusations are not unfounded. The family has suffered losses and humiliation that must be rectified. Since you firmly believe that Elder Roni is connected to Rachel, and you are confident in your ability to resolve this matter. Cruan's gaze swept over Roni, who involuntarily shivered. Then I will give you a chance to redeem yourself. You will take full responsibility. I authorize you to use the justice for 3 days to pursue Rachel and her accomplices, recover the $50 million in imperial taxes that were stolen, and prove your ability and loyalty to the Senate, as well as clear your own suspicions. If you succeed, you will restore your reputation, and the Senate will reconsider your status as heir. If you fail, Cruan's gaze was as cold as iron. You will bear all the consequences and permanently lose your right to inherit. This left the elders who had voted in favor at a loss. Edgar spoke calmly. Master, please reconsider. Parker's abilities are well known to all. As the saying goes, making mistakes is not terrible. What matters is recognizing them and making amends. Parker's actions today were indeed impulsive. Our intention is to hope he can learn from this. Exactly. Cruan ignored these voices and directed his gaze straight at Parker. Can you do it? I can. Parker straightened his back, meeting his father's gaze with determination. Then looking at Roni, he said firmly, Father, I will definitely track down Rachel and her masterminds and reclaim everything that belongs to the family. Cruan nodded slightly, and finally, his gaze swept over Roni and the variously expressioned elders. This matter is settled. The meeting is adjourned. He turned to leave first. Parker shot Roni a cold glance, as if looking at a corpse, and then strode out as well. The heavy alloy doors of the Senate slowly closed behind them, temporarily isolating the oppression and calculations within. Lonnie stood alone in the vast and magnificent corridor, his rapid breathing gradually calming, but his heart continued to pound wildly in his chest. He had succeeded. He did it. Although it was temporary, this was the most glorious and boldest victory of his life. Despite the chilling gazes from the elders, the result was what mattered most. He, Juan Bologna, a junior member of the council, had actually toppled the primary heir of the main family. Ecstasy and a twisted sense of achievement surged through him like the strongest liquor, washing over his nerves and rationality. He could hardly contain his laughter. The expressionless face of Crun and Parker's pale, reluctant eyes had become the brightest embellishments on his future title of Count. The Marquis would surely reward me. Lonnie murmured to himself, and he could almost see the title of Count of the Rabbit Marquisate, the vast territory and infinite glory beckoning him. He would become a true noble with real power and land. At this moment, he desperately needed to share this victory with someone and to receive confirmation and further instructions from that powerful ally. Without hesitation, he immediately contacted Lord Beckett through an extremely secure channel, requesting an urgent meeting. The meeting was arranged in an inconspicuous private club's secret room on the planet Carthage. When Lonnie arrived, Beckett had been waiting for some time. Councilman Lonnie, it seems you have good news to share with me? Beckett said with a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. My lord, we did it. We succeeded. Lonnie could hardly contain his excitement, speaking almost incoherently as he recounted everything that had happened in the council. How Parker had lost his composure and made accusations. How he had cleverly countered and proposed a crucial motion. And finally the astonishing voting result, where most of the elders, except for a few like Crun, agreed to suspend Parker's qualifications. Beckett listened quietly, a glint of light flickering in his eyes. When Lonnie finished, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha! Good. Very good. Lonnie, you have exceeded my expectations. You have truly surprised me. He stood up and personally poured a glass of wine for Lonnie, handing it over. Come. To our interim victory, cheers. You truly are the most perceptive and capable talent in the Juan Bologna family. Lonnie took the glass and drank it down in one gulp, the fiery liquid making him feel even more euphoric. He tentatively asked, what about the title of Count and territory that the Marquis promised earlier? Beckett, all smiles, patted Lonnie's shoulder, his tone incredibly reassuring. Don't worry, Lonnie, both the Marquis and I remember your contributions. What we promised you will not be forgotten. Once everything here in Juan Bologna is settled, the Marquis will personally hold the investiture ceremony for you. A position of a powerful count has already been prepared for you. After all, our Marquis has plenty of land. It's just one planet. Ronnie's heart was completely reassured, as he imagined himself in an earl's outfit, receiving the admiration of the crowds. However, Beckett's tone shifted slightly, becoming more concerned, reminding him that it was still a sensitive time. The Cruan father and son would certainly not let things rest. You need to be especially careful lately, keep a low profile, and avoid drawing unnecessary attention. We'll wait until the storm passes, all right? Yes, yes. My lord has thought this through. I understand. I will definitely keep a low profile and won't jeopardize the Marquis's grand plans. Ronnie nodded repeatedly, grateful for Beckett's concern. After exchanging a few more inconsequential words of encouragement, Beckett ended the meeting, citing other matters to attend to, as Ronnie settled into his luxurious hovercar and drove through the bustling streets of Carthage. He felt that the sky had never been so clear and the air so fresh. He even began to ponder whether it would be more profitable to choose a population estate, agricultural estate, or mineral estate in the future. Beckett, you can be arrogant now, but all of this is thanks to my efforts. Without me, you're nothing. Meanwhile, in the private chamber, Beckett's smile vanished the moment Ronnie left, replaced by a cold sneer and disdain. An earl? An estate? Someone who can easily sell out the core interests of his own family for personal gain can betray Zhuangbi today and sell us out for a higher price tomorrow. A fool with no loyalty. An inferior being. Zhuangbi is polite to you because you were born of an elder's bloodline. Without that status, do you think they would tolerate you? Not skinning you alive would be incredibly merciful. Chapter 174. Turning the Tables Fortress of Triumph. The faint scent of incense lingered in the air, quietly spreading. The Earl took his seat slowly, while Parker stood opposite him, his expression calm. Father, your performance was quite good, Parker. The Earl's praise was delivered in a very flat tone, especially the part where you lost control at the end. It was just right. Ronnie probably really thinks you've lost your mind. Parker offered a bitter smile. To be honest, Father, half of it wasn't just acting. Ronnie's face and those elders really made me angry. The anger is real, which is what deceived everyone. Cruin gestured for him to fetch the Karasai cigars and wine. Parker held a bottle in one hand while balancing two blue crystal glasses between his fingers. The pale green liquid poured like a spring. But what they see is just what we want them to see. Cruin shook his wine glass, his gaze deep. Marquis Eisen, and those eyes. What do they most want to see? They would love to see Zhuangbi fall apart from within, hope to see me, the Earl, lose control of the family. Wish to see you, the heir, be deposed, and want to see the forces loyal to us cut down one by one. Only then can they take advantage of the situation. The Earl tilted his head back to finish his drink, if I'm right. He is preparing to strike at another one of our transport ships. Father, unfortunately, I will not give him that opportunity again. Cruin set down his wine glass and walked over to the star map, his finger tracing the territory of Zhuangbai. We have entered the storm, Parker. Your removal is not just to keep you out of sight as bait. More importantly, when you fall, those loyal subordinates under your command, who hold key positions and make things difficult for the Senate, will naturally face misfortune as well. Claude's dismissal is just the beginning. Cruin's tone carried a cold calculation. Next, those you have placed in the Zhuangbai Navy, the patrols, and even the intelligence analysis department will be marginalized, reassigned, or face demotion due to your loss of power, creating a significant number of key vacancies. Parker understood completely. A chill ran through him, yet he felt exhilarated. This way, in the eyes of the Senate and the Marquis, your control over Zhuangbai will be greatly weakened. They will think that to quell public outrage, you had to compromise with the Senate and cut off an arm to survive. Exactly, Cruin nodded slightly. They will believe that a massive power vacuum and chaos have emerged within Zhuangbai, providing them with a golden opportunity to infiltrate, expand their influence, and even launch a lethal strike. They will eagerly jump in, fill these vacancies with their own people, and act more boldly, even kill you. And all of this will be under your watch. Parker interjected, his eyes shining with admiration. We appear to be retreating, but in reality, we are drawing them out, exposing all their hidden agents and influence. True, Cruin glanced at the star map and then shook his head. But none of this matters. Those people within Zhuangbai cannot stir up waves. His expression grew unusually solemn. Parker, this time, you are publicly pursuing Rachel as bait, but it is extremely dangerous. From what I know about them, they will either not come at all or strike with full force for a decisive kill. Father, Parker laughed. Lord Lu Ling said that with him around, no one in the Empire can touch me. Do not underestimate our enemies. Cruin returned to his desk and retrieved a box from a hidden compartment. This storm involves not just us and the Marquis of Eisen. Too many parties are entangled in this. Even Governor Karasi and Minister Kishi might be involved. Cruin slowly opened the box, revealing two metallic spheres inside. These are the 50 descent keys authorized by the governor, along with another 50 given by Marquis Jinlan, which just arrived yesterday. Now I am handing them over to you. Parker took a deep breath. He knew exactly what this represented. Cruin looked at Parker, their eyes locking, a surge of battle intent rising between them. My son, do not fear them. If they dare to invade, summon people immediately. Kill? Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory, Agricultural Colony Satellite Number 26, Qingrang. This satellite is famous for its fertile organic soil and efficient vertical farming towers, serving as one of the Zhuangbai family's important grain production bases. The air is perpetually filled with a damp, sweet aroma of plant freshness mixed with nutrient solutions. An unremarkable medium-sized cargo spaceship, the United Harvest No. 33, is slowly docking at the designated berth of Agricultural Port No. 3. The hull of the ship was even dusted with some interstellar particles, making it look no different from an ordinary cargo vessel that shuttles between agricultural satellites, transporting seeds and farming machinery. The unloading hatch opened, and the gangway descended. A few individuals dressed in oil-stained coveralls, resembling typical space handlers, began busily unloading cargo from the hold. The cargo consisted of standard metal-sealed barrels, about half a person high, labeled with the name of a certain agricultural group specializing in high-grade organic fertilizer concentrate. They were smoothly transferred onto a long-awaited hover trailer. Standing beside the trailer was Rosaniella, clad in gray work attire, her hair simply tied back, and wearing wind goggles that made her look like a satellite agricultural supervisor responsible for receiving supplies. Only her sharp, hawk-like eyes, constantly scanning the surroundings, revealed a hint of astuteness and vigilance that contrasted with her current appearance. Nearby, Bloodshark yawned, his muscular arms crossed over his chest, leaning against the trailer's railing in boredom. This surveillance duty was painfully tedious for him, far less exciting than a real fight. Ghost Croc remained silent, keeping a watchful eye on Rosaniella's back. His muscles were tensed. The captain had entrusted him with the responsibility of watching over this woman, and he could not afford any mistakes. Rosaniella seemed oblivious to the two distinctly different gazes behind her. Holding a data pad, her fingers smoothly glided across the screen, seemingly checking the cargo list, but in reality, she was making the final confirmation with the ship's captain through an encrypted channel. Batch K709, high-grade organic fertilizer concentrate, 50 barrels. Confirmation of receipt. Her voice, calm and steady, transmitted through the built-in communicator. Confirmation of delivery. Wishing for a bountiful harvest, Chief QEing. The captain on the other end responded in the same formulaic manner. The handover was complete. The cargo ship quickly closed its hatch and departed from the dock, as if it had never been there. Is it done? Bloodshark stretched, joints cracking lightly. Let us hurry and get this stuff to the warehouse. This place is making my head spin. He waved his hand in the air, trying to disperse the cloying plant smell. The three of them got into the vehicle, transporting the heavy fertilizer barrels to an old underground storage area deep within the satellite, long abandoned and far from the main agricultural activity zones. The ventilation system operated hoarsely, and the air was thick with the smell of stale dust. When the heavy isolation door closed behind them, leaving only the cold emergency lights, the facade of the agricultural supervisor vanished from Rosaniella's face. She approached one of the sealed barrels and pressed a few inconspicuous dimples on the barrel lid in a specific sequence. With a soft yet clear hiss, the heavy lid slowly slid open. Inside was not the dark organic fertilizer at all, but rather filled with a translucent, subtly glowing cushioning gel. Within the gel, neatly secured like sleeping jewels, were 10 deep blue, orb-shaped devices swirling with strange energy patterns. Out of the 50 barrels, only 5 contained these secrets. This was the jump beacon for the Silver Wing's return, with a total of 50 devices, meaning it could facilitate the leap of 50 Storm-class assault battleships. Rosaniera carefully checked the status indicators of several devices. After confirming that everything was normal, she resealed the barrel lid. Just as she finished her inspection and felt a moment of calm, the captain's voice, low and filled with caution, along with Bloodshark's slightly rough exclamation, echoed almost simultaneously, piercing the warehouse's silence like a cold needle. Rosaniera's body tensed imperceptibly, her breath momentarily caught in her throat. She slowly turned around. Lu Ling had quietly appeared not far behind her, as if he had been standing there all along, merging with the shadows. He wore an expression that was neither a smile nor a frown, inscrutable, his gaze calm, yet carrying an oppressive sense of penetrating scrutiny. When did this happen? He stepped forward slowly, placing his hand casually on Rosaniera's tense shoulder, resembling a wicked villain, and whispered, "We had an agreement. It's best not to entertain any unnecessary thoughts. You wouldn't want to lose your freedom forever, would you?" Chapter 175. The middleman prophet's Rosaniera's body tightened further. She could clearly feel the power and chill emanating from his fingertips. She forced herself to calm down, slightly tightening her jaw but not attempting to break free. Lu Ling's gaze swept over the sealed barrels, and his tone returned to normal. "How many inducements are there here?" 50. Rosaniera's voice struggled to remain steady. 50? Lu Ling repeated, clicking his tongue. "It seems your mentor doesn't have much weight within the Silver Wing, does he? After all this fuss, he just summoned a fully equipped Thunderstorm-class ship for support?" His contemptuous and mocking words lashed against Rosaniera's nerves. She couldn't understand where this man's confidence came from. Could the Earth Federation really confront an entire fully equipped assault fleet head-on? That was 50 battleships. "They're not here to save me," she said coldly. They're here to ensure the mission is completed and eliminate all potential threats, including you. Lu Ling's smile deepened. That's good. I'm a man of my word. If I win, you'll have to fulfill the agreement, right? Rosanira took a deep breath. Naturally, Lu Ling released his hand from her shoulder. Contact the buyer and tell him the goods have arrived. Only give him 10 and collect the remaining payment as soon as possible. 10. Rosanira looked up. Are you afraid? No. The remaining 40 will be sold to others next time. With your silver wing backing me, that's 40 billion. Lu Ling laughed heartily, then shifted his tone. I should thank you for helping me understand the ins and outs of this business. Rosanira looked at him in disbelief. Then it hit her. This man could even fabricate the highest level bidirectional key verification of silver wing out of thin air, perfectly stealing the identity and credit of the Emerald Eagle. In the face of his unfathomable technical prowess, the so-called organizational credibility and trading rules seemed like toys that could be altered at will. A chill ran up her spine, far colder than the hand Lu Ling had placed on her shoulder earlier. Rosanira suppressed her churning emotions. At this point, there was no turning back. She could only cooperate with him for now and plan her next move later. She needed to relay everything that had happened here, especially the danger and uncontrollability of Lu Ling, to her mentor as soon as possible. The hidden communicator was activated. After a few seconds of silence, a processed, deep male voice sounded again, tinged with a hint of urgency. Emerald Eagle? It seems the expert team's contact list has arrived. Yes, along with 10 new environmental purification devices, all in good condition and ready for use. The voice on the other end hesitated. Emerald Eagle. Can 10 purification devices definitely clear the small forest? My mentor will personally supervise this purification operation. After this statement, even if Beckett had further questions, he did not dare to ask. If he caused any displeasure and brought trouble to the Marquis's territory, that would be a real issue. After all, this final verification had passed. Beckett still did not know that his identity had already been uncovered, and he continued to play his role. That being the case, I will send someone to receive the goods and make the payment within 2 hours. The communication was disconnected. Half an hour later, at the internal transfer station of the Colonial Satellite, another transport ship arrived. This ship was smaller and more ordinary in appearance than the previous joint harvest vessel. The hatch opened, and 2 men in dark coats, expressionless with sharp eyes, emerged. They moved efficiently, stepping down steadily and operating drones to unload 100 super-large cargo containers. Each container weighed as much as 50 tons, but had a volume of only 95 m. Inside were cash and star coins bound by a special force field. One of the men stepped forward, slightly nodding to Rosanira, speaking in a stiffly respectful tone. Lady Emerald Eagle, on behalf of the Lord Marquis, I am here to deliver the final payment and receive the ordered goods. His gaze swept over the blood shark and the others behind Rosanira, but did not linger. Rosanira nodded slightly and gestured towards the 10 sealed barrels that had been prepared separately. The goods are there, in good condition, ready for transfer. The man in the coat took out a heavy data pad and quickly operated it. 1 billion star coins in cash, packed in 100 standard high-density containers. Container identification code LB749H series, password and force field lock key have been transmitted to your encrypted channel. As he spoke, his companion began directing the unloading machinery on the transport ship to smoothly offload the heavy high-density containers one by one to the designated handover area. Each container that landed caused the sturdy alloy deck to emit a slight groan. Bloodshark watched the seemingly small but heavy group of containers pile up in such a short time, feeling an involuntary movement in his throat. Although he had known that 1 billion star coins was an astronomical figure, witnessing it presented in such an impactful physical form still left him breathless with shock. The captain had just robbed 500 million, and now he had somehow acquired another 1 billion. To be honest, that half a year spent in the Red Soldiers was utterly wasted. Sigh, he couldn't understand. Perhaps these people from the Dragonhua region just preferred to keep a low profile. Rosanira activated the encrypted communicator, quickly verifying the key and container information. Information confirmed. Until this moment, the man in the trench coat only signaled to his subordinate. Another person immediately stepped forward, taking out a complex handheld scanner with various probing heads from his pocket. Once activated, it emitted a low-frequency hum. He approached the 10 sealed barrels with silver wings. The scanner carefully moved over the barrel's surface, reading the feedback signals of the internal structure and comparing them with preset feature codes. The entire process was quiet, efficient, and professional, without any delays. 10 seconds later, the scan was complete, and the person confirmed that the goods were correct. Only then did the others, including Bloodshark, lift the 10 sealed barrels. The transport ship's hatch closed, the engine started, and it smoothly departed the berth, quickly disappearing at the end of the connecting passage. In the transfer area, only Rosanira, Bloodshark, Ghost Crocodile, and the 100 high-density containers stood silently, exuding an invisible pressure of wealth. Rosanira looked at these containers with mixed feelings. This money originally belonged to the additional income of the Silver Wings, but now, it was being taken by that man under the guise of the Silver Wings. The key point was that the work still had to be done. She was merely a puppet. Soon, at the end of the passage, the Astro slowly drifted in, collecting the containers into the hangar under the influence of the towing beam. Only at this moment was Lu Ling the happiest. 1 billion, wallet balance. 108-764-4332 ISK. Ola, immediately confirmed the crew and captain selection. I want 10 tornadoes. Chapter 176, Arrival Carthage. Starport, Dock Number 1. Under the massive dome, the cold metal corridor echoed with orderly and heavy footsteps. Armed to the teeth, Parker led hundreds of Wanbei guards into the docking port of the Justice, like a black steel torrent, walking with a fierce and solemn demeanor. Just moments ago, Rachel's signal was captured near the star. Parker knew this was a bait thrown by Rabbit, but ironically, he himself was also bait. To his left and right stood Claude and Andre, both dressed in military attire but without any insignia of rank. Their expressions were calm, but their tightly pressed lips and sharp gazes revealed their inner unrest. Naturally, they were unaware of the power struggles within the upper echelons of the Senate. To them, Parker was now the first in line to inherit power after losing favor. This was his last chance to turn the tide, and everything he did had to be done with utmost caution. Both of their authorities had been suspended, which meant Claude could not mobilize the Wanbei fleet, and Andre could not mobilize the Wanbei Knights. Claude, who is replacing you? Parker's voice came through the helmet's built-in communicator, his pace unwavering. Monrout, Claude replied, Edgar's great-grandson. A playboy who only knows how to talk big. He tried to take command of the Justice yesterday, but was thrown out by me. He paused and added, the core officers and crew on board are all our people, rest assured, young master. The group quickly passed through the docking passage and entered the massive body of the Justice. Officers and crew members, who had long been waiting on either side of the passageway, straightened their backs and cast absolute loyalty and expectant glances towards Parker. They ignored the inspectors assigned by the Senate behind them, silently expressing their stance through their actions. Soon, everyone arrived at the bridge. Outside the massive curved observation window was the deep universe dotted with stars and the slowly rotating blue arc of the Carthage star. Without any hesitation, Parker walked straight towards the captain's seat at the center of the bridge, which symbolized supreme command. He removed his helmet and handed it to the aide beside him before sitting down steadily. Target location, Parker's voice broke the busy atmosphere of the bridge. Target signal stable, located at the periphery of the DT-77 star zone, currently conducting slow maneuvers. The radar officer quickly reported that no other large vessel signals were detected in the surrounding airspace. But severe stellar activity caused significant interference, resulting in scanning blind spots. Claude stepped forward, his gaze worried, and said in a low voice, Sir, Rachel is as cunning as a fox. It's impossible for her to expose herself so easily. The environment in the star zone is complex and prone to ambushes. This could be a trap. Parker certainly knew this, but that was precisely the purpose of his mission, to ignite this fiery storm as Mars. Andre, at your service. Andre stepped forward, slightly bowing in salute. Take command of the Justice Knight immediately. Engage the enemy without mercy. Understood. Andre grasped the hilt of his sword and strode away. The safety locks have been released. Engine at full power preheat. The massive Justice was departing from Dock 1. Parker gazed into the silent universe ahead and ordered in a deep voice, lock coordinates. Initiate jump. Jump engine preparing. Countdown 60 seconds. The navigation officer's voice rang out, tinged with a hint of nervousness. The Justice slowly oriented towards the star, and all personnel on the bridge immediately entered a state of peak efficiency. Navigation system self-check completed. Energy output is being transferred to the jump engine core. Reactor efficiency reaching maximum. Coordinates locked. Jump parameters finalized. Countdown 10 seconds. Engine output 100. Jump engine activated. With a low hum and a slight tremor, the Justice transformed into a stream of light and vanished from its original position. Kruin stood in the control tower, his gaze profound. Relay my orders. All Zhuangbai Navy, Extreme Assembly. Zhuangbai, Star DT-77, Space Zone. The blazing star hung like an eye of a furnace in the dark sky, spewing endless energy and particle storms, disturbing the surrounding spatial structure and forming a natural perceptual barrier. A cruiser was cruising at standard speed in this area. On the bridge, Rachel, or rather, the program occupying this mechanical shell, was observing the direction of the Carthage star through optical sensors. Deep within her pupils, crimson light flickered steadily. Devoid of any human emotional fluctuations, only precise calculations awaiting execution. Data stream compilation in progress, expected arrival in 14 minutes. Further away, in a shadowy area cleverly concealed by stellar magnetic storms, a destroyer quietly hovered. Inside the bridge, Lord Beckett leisurely sat in a comfortable command chair. his fingertips gently tapping on the armrest, a hint of a satisfied smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The plan was well within his grasp. Fish could never resist the lure of bait, especially the naive ones. Beckett murmured to himself, as if admiring an opera about to begin, "Mr. Parker, you mustn't disappoint me." At that moment, the radar officer exclaimed, "High energy response detected. Comparing with database. Is it the Justice? How could this be? It's 14 minutes ahead of schedule." Beckett squinted, his inner greed no longer able to be suppressed. So this is the technology of the Earth Federation? Even though he had been mentally prepared, seeing it in action still surprised him. Indeed, this was Marquis Eisen's final move, using the Silver Wing to kill Parker, ensuring that Parker and his Justice would forever sink here. A blinding flash of a warp jump entered the battlefield, and a crimson battleship marker appeared on the tactical display. Beckett couldn't help but smile. "No one could save you now, my dear Mr. Parker. Send the orders." "Yes." Rachel immediately executed the command, as one by one. The return missiles were launched into the void from the specially designed cruiser, stirring up a violent vortex of spatial energy. The next moment, the platinum-hued Justice-class battleship, adorned with the glimmering emblem of the Joanby Eagle, burst forth from the warp tunnel like a white eagle breaking free from its restraints. "Parker, it's time. We're resisting the tunneling effect. All systems offline. Estimated time, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Activate the backup reactor. Main system back online." The light on the bridge dimmed momentarily before becoming even brighter. Parker sat firmly in the captain's seat, watching the two white ship signals on the star map, one at 157 kilometers from the Justice, the other at 1,645 kilometers. Surely, Beckett was on that ship. Quite cunning. But unfortunately, he didn't realize he had already been exposed. "Deploy all aircraft, launch Iron Riders, destroy Rachel," Parker commanded, while also deep in thought. Could it be that the Silver Wing wasn't coming? According to his plan, it should have jumped into the fray the moment it arrived. Target confirmed. "Rachel." The weapons officer's voice rang out, all weapons locked on, cruise missiles ready. In true warfare, time stretched like years. Outside the bridge's portholes, hundreds of aircraft zipped past, with 26 Iron Riders led by Andre forming a defensive formation around the Justice. The tunneling effect is about to end. Main cannon fully charged. However, at that moment, an unexpected change occurred. Report. Large-scale spatial spectral distortion detected. In one corner of the main tactical screen, indicators representing abnormal spatial distortions suddenly turned red. Spatial distortion index is rising. Coordinates D11, C36, multiple ultra-high-intensity spatial jump signals detected 170 kilometers at the 1 o'clock position from our ship. Here they come. Parker tightened his grip on the armrest. In the void 170 meters away, 10 azure spatial rifts appeared like wounds in the universe, their edges erupting with danger and violent arcs of electricity. In the next moment, a brilliant light burst forth, covering the heavy bow of the dark steel-colored battleship as it crashed through the energy turbulence, its width comparable to that of a small space station. Following this, the mammoth hull, stretching 11 kilometers long, forcefully squeezed through the rift and descended upon the world. 10 Silverwing-class assault battleships. They have been identified as matching the characteristics of the Empire's database related to the Silverwing resistance. Enemy attack. Inside the bridge, red lights flashed, and figures moved anxiously. Everyone drenched in cold sweat. Claude's face turned ashen. "It's indeed a trap. Young master, they have finally arrived," Parker said calmly. "Execute the highest protocol for descent." 2 seconds later, a confirmation interface for the secret order popped up in front of the captain. Parker immediately placed a metallic sphere into it. "Secret order confirmed. Retrieving response signal. Jump signal has responded. Quantity, 50. Identification code, Allied. 9th Assault Fleet of the 1st Holy Legion of Karasi, descent launch." However, in the next moment, the screen suddenly displayed a crimson warning. Warning. Abnormal remote launch port. Descent 01 launch failed. Descent 02 launch failed. Descent 39 launch failed. What? Parker suddenly stood up, his expression changing drastically. The most critical part of the plan, to utterly annihilate the Silverwing's absolute trump card, had jammed at the moment of activation. Engineering team, check the launch ports immediately. All backup lines. Hurry. Claude's voice roared. "No? I'll go myself." Under inspection. No physical connection response from the main port. The logical link has been severed. Backup port permissions are locked. Who the hell did this? Parker's pupils contracted sharply. A chilling sensation coursed down his spine. There's a mole. Roni has already been targeted, and he couldn't even board the Justice. There's another deeper, more hidden mole. The real traitor has been lurking around them, possibly even on this ship. Right beside him. Who is it? In the distance, on the destroyer where Beckett was, he sat calmly in the captain's seat, gazing at the silent Justice, gently raising his wine glass as if to toast to death. "Foolish Kruin, Foolish Parker, foolish Juanbi. Did you think I didn't know about the exposure? I intentionally exposed it for you to see, turning your own trap back on you. And you still want to call for the Marquis of Jinlan? Roni, that waste is just a pawn to confuse you. Do you think the Marquis doesn't have a second, third, or even 99th plan ready? For the sake of this Earth Federation. No matter how you respond, everything is within the plan. This is the absolute gap in strength and foundation. Surprised? Unexpected? Chapter 177 Reinforcements. 112 Australian dollars from the Star, the collection station base, brightly lit. After a month of relentless transformation, this once barren asteroid facility has undergone a complete metamorphosis. 50 docks of varying sizes are attached to the main structure, with countless drones and engineering vessels welding the external framework, weaving a brand new steel jungle. Lu Ling stands before the observation deck of the newly constructed control tower. Below him is a vast base illuminated by lights. And before him is a real-time holographic list displaying the status of every ship. Status of Death Vortex-class battleship, ready for deployment at Core Dock A01. Status of Tornado-class attack battlecruisers, training type, X-12, ready for deployment at Peripheral Dock C area. Status of Astro-class stealth corvette, ready for deployment at Small Dock S07. Status of Cycler-class mining barge, unloading at Logistics Dock L12. The nascent fleet lies quietly in wait, anticipating its first appearance. Captain, all crew assessment pass rate is 100, simulated cooperative combat efficiency is 9877. Beside him, Aura is reporting the latest training data and analysis. Everything progressing smoothly. Just then, Parker's communication comes through, his voice urgent. Lu Ling, hurry. There's more than one traitor at home. The communication signal is highly unstable. Parker's voice is intermittent, losing its usual composure, replaced by anxiety. I can't get away. The water in Zhuangbai is much deeper than we thought. This time, a violent explosion interrupts his words once again. It's an honor to know you, my friend from Zhuangbai, Parker. The communication abruptly cuts off. Lu Ling's gaze instantly turns icy. Aura, integrate Parker's justice into the first fleet of terror hunters. Order Sai Rue to lead the fleet to strike immediately. Bring the coordinates of DT-77 Justice. Coordinates DT-77 D10C-34 locked. Distance 1,123 Australian dollars. Tell Parker Lu Ling watches the approaching Astro class. Don't panic. Half a minute. He steps off the observation deck railing, his nano armor instantly covering his body. The cabin door opens, and the Astro class's tractor beam precisely locks onto him, pulling him back into the ship. Virum. The hull vibrates slightly, the stealth operation device activates instantly, and they jump away. Almost simultaneously, in the port, the largest Death Vortex-class battleship has all its external docking arms and energy transmission cables instantly retracted by powerful hydraulic devices, producing a dull metallic clashing sound. The 12 Tornado-class training ships stationed in Area C follow suit, their engine nozzles suddenly bursting with a blue arc of light, adjusting their tactical maneuvers as they leave the port, heading into the darkness. On the bridge of the Death Vortex-class battleship, Major General Brute Sai Rue sits at the captain's seat, facing a fan-shaped array of over 20 holographic interfaces. Data streams cascading down like a waterfall as her gaze sweeps quickly, synchronously processing vast amounts of information. All units of the fleet, attention. Prepare for free jump to coordinates DT-77D-10C-34. Tactical Officer, synchronize all fire control systems and establish tactical links. Tactical Radar Officer, initiate active scanning of the DT-77 battlefield environment upon entry, prioritize high-value target identification. From the class of Astral, maintain an optimal range of 400 kilometers. Attention all Tornado-class captains. Her voice shifted to the fleet channel. After entering the area, from a diamond formation centered around my ship, maintaining a 3-kilometer distance between each vessel. Activate the shield energy relay and transfer all redundant shield energy to the capacitor core. Once we exit the jump, immediately activate the microwarp engines to maintain the diamond formation and close in on me. A series of commands were issued in seconds, precise and clear. The entire fleet moved like a finely tuned war machine, her will being the core program, driving all gears to mesh perfectly. For the glory of the Republic. Jump engine activated. In the next moment, the entire fleet broke through space, vanishing from their original position like arrows released from a bow. 1 minute earlier, Zhuangbai, DT-77. Edge Space Domain. Silver Wing Vanguard Fleet. The Night Watcher, a Thunderstorm-class assault battleship, bridge. Valentine sat in the captain's chair, the new scar at the corner of his brow appearing particularly sinister in the dim light. He frowned at the tactical star map, with 10 green battleship signals floating alone at the jump assembly point, whereas according to plan, there should have been 50. Something was wrong. Too wrong. He glanced at the signals from the white cruiser and destroyer, ordering the communications officer. Establish contact with Rosanella. I want to know what she is up to. The communications officer's fingers flew over the console. Commander, attempts to establish an encrypted link are being severely disrupted by intense magnetic storms in the DT-77 stellar region. Signal degradation is significant. Communication establishment failed. Requesting electronic ship assistance. Commander, the electronic ship, Echoer, is not in the area. The tactical officer was somewhat surprised. They hadn't jumped over, and the return signal had already ended. What? Valentine narrowed his eyes. But soon, he spotted the solitary crimson battleship signal and the numerous points of light from onboard aircraft. An Imperial trap? Valentine felt a pang of fear. He had previously reported Rosanella's potential betrayal to headquarters, but they dismissed his claims citing lack of evidence and insisted on her unwavering loyalty. To be safe, Valentine decided to make an exit. All ships, respond to the return signal and evacuate the battlefield in 3 minutes. Just then, an encrypted communication registered in the database came through. Valentine thought it was Rosanella, but upon connection, he was met with a deep male voice. You are the professional team, right? I am the buyer of the Emerald Hawk. The jump system of the flagship Justice has been compromised by me. Their plan to ambush you in conjunction with Marquis Jean-Lon has failed. Buyer? Emerald Hawk, Rosanella's code name. Valentine certainly understood what that meant, but he had no prior knowledge of this situation. They came here for the primary target. Had Rosanella taken on additional work? But for an operation involving huge transactions and external clients, headquarters would have surely informed him as the executor. Yet, he had received no word. The payment has been made, right? He suppressed his doubts and asked cautiously. Yes, it has. Who is Branch? Juanbai Park. The communication ended. Valentine sat in the captain's chair, a meaningful smile on his face. It turned out that the fleet had failed to assemble as planned because Rosanira had taken on a private job, and others were also dealing with Juanby. Parker, the heir of Juanby, had sunk his flagship in a previous skirmish, nearly costing him his life among the stars. The ugly scar at the corner of his brow was a result of that encounter. This was the greatest humiliation of Valentine's career as the commander of the Silver Wing Guerrillas. Moreover, it had cost them a fierce general from Clefford. All ships of the fleet, heed my command, Valentine said calmly. Cancel the evacuation order, all weapon systems, lock onto the enemy, and tear them apart completely. This time, he aimed for a decisive blow. The order, like a death sentence, spread instantly across the 10 Silver Wing Thunder-class battleships. The 100 kilometers distance closed in an instant, and in the next moment, vengeful cannon fire erupted like a violent thunder, illuminating the chaotic space disturbed by the stellar storm. Aboard the Justice, a Martyr-class battleship. On the bridge, the enemy is firing. Repeat, the enemy is firing. Almost simultaneously with the warning, the massive hull of the Justice shook violently. The enemy's attack had arrived. On the tactical display, the crimson dots of the 10 Silver Wing Thunder-class battleships began to converge, weaving a devastating crossfire net with astonishing precision and efficiency. Our fire control system has been compromised by an unknown virus. Unable to lock onto targets, Claude immediately stood up and shouted, switch to visual targeting. Initiate visual targeting. Fire all cruise missiles. The shield strength is dropping. 897,244. The voice of the defense officer was tinged with despair. 10 assault battleships focused fire on a conventional battleship. And the outcome was predictable. The next wave of attack followed swiftly. The energy distribution system is overloaded, unable to effectively deflect attacks. They are using advanced fusion warheads. Parker gripped the armrest of the command seat tightly, as some attacks breached the shields and torrents of energy hammered down on the armor. The left engine circuit has been destroyed. Adjusting course is expected to take 127 seconds. Jump to any random place first. Claude immediately pulled up the star map. Strike force. All units launch. Prioritize intercepting cruise missiles and torpedoes. Parker's voice remained calm amidst the violent tremors. Andre, if I don't make it, you charge in. Understood, sir. Prepare for impact. Shield energy is insufficient, strength below 10. Outside the hull, the glow of the shields dimmed at a visible rate, disappearing. More cannon fire directly struck the armor, creating massive breaches. Inside the Justice, engineering teams risked their lives, manually operating the enormous energy gates to forcefully channel power into the not fully prepared jump engine core. Go. Everyone was fighting for survival. Moments later, on the bridge, the navigation officer exclaimed in surprise. Jump engine energy injection successful. Core reaction has reached critical point. Navigation coordinates are loaded. Jump engine preparation times 60 seconds. High energy attack detected is divine retribution. All ships, prepare to brace for impact. The voice of the defense officer was abruptly cut off by a deafening explosion that was all too close. With a thunderous roar, an unprecedented massive energy beam struck the midsection armor of the Justice. causing the entire battleship to tilt violently to one side, as if it had been hit hard, accompanied by the agonizing sound of metal fracturing from within. Alarms blared. Main energy conduits ruptured. Energy supply to the jump engine interrupted. Coolant leaking. Core temperature skyrocketing. It was over. The glimmer of hope that had just emerged instantly faded. Parker's heart sank to the depths. The mocking laughter of the traitor seemed to echo through the endless void. Just as this utter despair was about to consume everything, 12 flashes of jump light burst through the void, sliding in front of the Justice and blocking the oncoming torrent of energy. Then, a more brilliant flash appeared. The death spiral entered the formation like a battle axe tearing through space, massive, dark, exuding a suffocating sense of oppression. Everyone held their breath. Reinforcements had arrived. Lu Ling's holographic image appeared on the bridge. Parker, why are you panicking? Lu Ling's voice was calm. I told you, as long as I'm here, no one from the Empire can touch you. And your shield is really weak. How about buying a Pro Max superpower version from me? I'll give you a discount. Lu Ling had actually arrived long ago, but he did not reveal himself immediately. The Astro class was too small, and even if it blocked an attack, it wouldn't cover much area. Moreover, as the flagship of Zhuangbai, the Justice couldn't sink without several rounds of concentrated fire. As the eyes of the fleet's first battle, he had more important things to do. Chapter 178. The wheels roll on 10 seconds earlier, aboard the Night Watchman-class Thunderstorm battleship on the bridge. Valentine sat firmly in the captain's seat, rhythmically tapping his fingers on the armrest, admiring the massacre unfolding on the tactical sand table, which held no suspense. The crimson light of the Justice flickered like a candle in the wind, dimming under the crossfire of countless artillery, its shield trembling and collapsing like an avalanche. A cold, vengeful satisfaction played at the corners of his mouth. Fire 2 more rounds. Increase the firepower, target its hangar. I want Zhuangbai Parker to watch his ship sink without even letting the escape pods go. His voice was calm, carrying a cruel delight akin to a cat playing with a mouse. No need to worry about those aircraft. Let them fend for themselves once the mothership sinks. The target's shield has collapsed, detecting the enemy attempting to restart the jump engine. Energy fluctuations abnormal. Core chamber location has been precisely locked. Valentine nodded in satisfaction and immediately ordered, launch heavenly punishment. Fire. In that instant, dozens of jump flashes erupted from the distant void without warning. Everyone saw it, but there was no response on the spatial spectrum radar. Reinforcements. Report. Unknown spatial disturbance. Intensity unmeasurable. Source unlocatable. The radar officer's voice was filled with shock and disbelief. All active sensor arrays show no readings. Repeat. Optical observation is normal, but all sensors have failed. Gravitational readings abnormal. Spatial curvature is experiencing incomprehensible distortion. The navigation officer's voice trembled. What's happening? Valentine suddenly stood up and rushed to the observation window, his eyes wide open as he stared intently at the airspace in front of the Justice. 12 darkly painted battlecruisers, their lines sharp like guillotines, silently glided alongside the Justice. They appeared so abruptly, so completely, so synchronously. Valentine squinted. Stealth technology. Ghost ships? While those 12 phantom warships firmly protected the Justice, a larger shadow broke through the void, exuding an irresistible sense of absolute power, entering the formation. Throughout this entire process, the sensors of the Watchmen remained calm. As on the radar, there was still only one red-marked Justice. In the next moment, a torrent of firepower unleashed from the Silver Wing crashed violently into the newly arrived Ghost fleet. After the intense explosion subsided, a nearly transparent membrane-like shield was revealed, with not even a ripple on its surface. No, this is impossible. The tactical officer gasped in disbelief. This was the concentrated fire of 10 battleships. How could it not even breach the shield of a single battlecruiser? Valentine was stunned. This was definitely not technology possessed by any known forces of the Empire. It dawned on him. Target 1. The Earth Federation. This was the true target that the Silver Wing was willing to capture at any cost. Valentine breathed heavily, his heart pounding in his chest. He hurried back to the captain's seat and decisively activated the ultimate authorization code that directly connected to the Legion. All fleet, heed my command. Target 1 in the net. Confirming again. Target 1 in the net. Eject all return beacons. Jump the main force in for capture. Repeat. Immediately eject all return. Jump the main force in for capture. Secret code verification successful. Retrieving response signal. Jump signal responded. Quantity, 356. Identification code. Allied. Silver Wing Resistance COSI 1st Legion 1st Assault Fleet. COSI 1st Legion 2nd Assault Fleet. 3rd Assault Fleet. 8th Assault Fleet. Silver Wing Resistance COSI 1st Legion Battleship Soul of Determination. Evil of Freedom Battleship. Necessary Evil Battleship. Ashen Rebirth Battleship. Ashen Oath Aviation Class Aircraft Carrier. Ashen Redemption Aviation Class Aircraft Carrier. Return launch. Each name announced by that cold electronic voice brought Valentine unparalleled confidence and immense strength. This time, the return of the Silver Wing had no cumbersome steps. The specially designed launch covers on the tops of the 10 battleships suddenly popped open, and within seconds, hundreds of return beacons were activated, shooting toward the upper airspace. The entire space erupted in an instant, with hundreds of Azure superspace rifts being forcibly torn apart and expanded, their edges bursting with violent energy arcs intertwining and colliding, triggering intense gravitational tides and energy turbulence. Silver Wing is invincible, Valentine shouted passionately. Meanwhile, on the concealed bridge of the Astro-class frigate, Lu Ling detected the violent hyperspace fluctuations. Roshanira stood beside him, as part of their agreement. Do you see it now? Her voice carried a hint of complex emotions. This is not all of the Silver Wing. Our determination to come here is beyond your imagination. Lu Ling glanced at her, his mindset unchanged. In terms of absolute generational difference and dimensional strikes, it doesn't matter how many of you come. What you rely on is precisely what you cannot comprehend. Lu Ling sent a communication to Parker. Parker, you withdraw first. I'll handle this. However, Parker's voice was resolute, filled with alarms and the shouts of others in the background. The physical locks on the arrival launch corridor are being disabled. Give me 5 minutes. Since the main force of the Silver Wing has arrived, we must keep them here. Otherwise, Zhuangbai will never know peace. Understood. Lu Ling didn't say much more and immediately ordered, Ola, authorize Christine to engage and protect the justice. Sai Rue, the stage is yours. Understood, Marshal. Sai Rue replied firmly. I won't fail the mission. In the void, hundreds of blue arcs of electricity expanded continuously, followed by the silhouettes of massive warships emerging like steel beasts breaking free from the abyss, making a fierce entrance. The first to leap out was a formation of Thunderstorm-class assault battleships, far exceeding the previous Vanguard fleet. They moved like a mobile mountain of steel, their heavy armor and dense turret groups silently proclaiming their destructive power. But this was just the beginning. As four shadows, each 7 kilometers long and exuding an oppressive aura, slowly slid out from the largest spatial rift, the very gravity of the battlefield seemed to shift. Judgment-class dreadnoughts, soul of determination, evil of freedom, necessary evil, Ashes reborn. Their massive hulls, like moving fortresses, had iconic super-large cluster laser main turrets slowly rotating to calibrate their aim. Surrounding them, secondary turrets and missile silos stood like quills of a hedgehog, radiating a chilling light of death. Last to arrive were 2 colossal ships resembling cosmic fortresses, the Ashen Oath and Ashen Redemption Gospel-class aircraft carriers. Their lengths exceeded 10 kilometers, towering like mountains. In just a few dozen seconds, a full 7 Silver Wing main assault fleets, for Judgment-class dreadnoughts, 2 Gospel-class carriers, and their massive air wing completed battlefield deployment. The previously somewhat empty space, due to the eerie appearance of the terrifying Hunter fleet, was instantly filled to the brim with countless silver-gray warships, stretching as far as the eye could see. The Silver Wing Resistance's Kashi 1st Legion had returned. Valentine's command authority was automatically transferred, and the true commander of this legion, Roshanira's mentor, Karwitz, arrived on the battlefield to take over everything. And amidst this suddenly escalating storm, the one most terrified was none other than Lord Beckett. Hiding in the shadow of a star, he slumped in the command seat, pale-faced, cold sweat soaking through his luxurious uniform. The previous calmness, where everything seemed to be under control, had long since vanished. Through the observation window of the powerful destroyer, he witnessed the ghostly, unfamiliar fleet entering the scene, followed by the overwhelming main force of the Silver Wing Resistance. In just 1 minute, the situation had escalated from a game of interests among nobles to a massive war that could shake the entire constellation of Kashi. And he, Lord Beckett of the Rabbit family, was the one who ignited this fuse. If he still did not understand the purpose of the Silver Wing at this moment, he might as well give up. The target of the Silver Wing had never been Juanbi, nor Parker. Their real prey was that member of the Earth Federation. No, it can't be, he muttered in a daze, his voice dry and hoarse, filled with disbelief and fear. Such a grand event would shock not only marquises, but even the governor of Kashi and the minister of Kashi would be alarmed. The Earth Federation, the main force of the Silver Wing Resistance. These two names, which existed only in the highest confidential files, were now appearing simultaneously on the stage of their meticulously plotted conspiracy. He had originally thought he was playing a grand game for Marquis Rabbit, using the Silver Wing's Emerald Eagle to eliminate Parker and weaken Juanbi, exchanging the Earth Federation member for the minimum benefit to pave the way for the Rabbit family to swallow this juicy piece of meat. But now he was horrified to realize that he was the fool being toyed with. It was over. Completely over. If the Earth Federation member was taken by the Silver Wing, what would it mean if the Empire found out about their conspiracy to benefit from the chaos? It would mean the Rabbit family colluded with the notorious terrorist organization, the Silver Wing Resistance, ambushing and killing the first heir of the Imperial Hereditary Count, and also leading to the Earth Federation engineer being taken by the Silver Wing. This was not just a simple conspiracy exposed, it was treason, a heinous crime that could drag the entire Rabbit family into an abyss of no return, uprooted by the Empire. Marquis Eisen would never admit to his actions and would be the first to throw him under the bus to clear the family's suspicion. No, Marquis Eisen couldn't escape either. It had to be remedied. Communications officer. Beckett suddenly sprang up from his chair. Highest priority, encrypted channel. Contact our backup reserved on the Justice. Immediately lift the blockade on the Justice's descent system. At all costs. Let Juanby and Parker call for reinforcements. Hurry, Beckett roared. Chapter 179. The small mining barge, the Silver Wing Resistance's first corps of Kushi, the Judgment-class Dreadnought Determination, bridge. Commander Kawai stood at the center of the command seat on the bridge, his weathered face etched with the marks of time and warfare. With only a pair of deep eyes, as profound as the starry abyss, reflecting the suffocating steel sky, filled with countless Silver Wing warships on the main tactical screen. Tunnel effect, expected to end in 20 minutes and 59 seconds. Backup reactor has been activated, system self-check expected to complete within 3 minutes. Below, hundreds of bridge positions lit up one by one, as the massive war machine fully awakened. He had just completed a leap across light years and took command of the battlefield. Valentine's earlier reports and fervent shouts still echoed in the communication channels, but Kawi's attention was completely drawn to the blank area on the tactical display. In that area, there was only a solitary crimson point representing a battleship. However, through the optical sensors, there were 12 uniquely shaped battlecruisers, resembling standing guillotines, all in white-gray. Their signals remained an unsettling silence on the most advanced sensor array of the Silver Wing, as if they were merely ghostly phantoms projected against the cosmic backdrop. Valentine's attacks were ongoing, yet they produced no ripples. All assaults dissipated into nothingness. An extremely discordant sense of disconnection made Kawi, a seasoned veteran of the Silver Wing, cautious. Even with a massive fleet of 350 battleships and 6 flagships, such advanced shield technology implied that the enemy's capacity to absorb and dissipate energy was beyond imagination. The Tactical Analysis Center was instructed to find a way to analyze the correlation between the target's shield structure and radar stealth characteristics. I need the preliminary projections of the energy dissipation curve and structural model immediately. All main guns of the Fearless-class battleships are to be charged and on standby. No firing without my orders. The Gospel-class carriers are to release all scavenger fighter squadrons and find a way to deploy electronic spearheads. The enemy possesses strong artificial intelligence. Deploy mechanized combat units for boarding and suppression. The 1st and 4th Assault Fleets are to advance to coordinates K-77, 90 kilometers away, establish a 3-dimensional interception net, and release all cavalry to engage the enemy's aircraft. The 2nd and 3rd Assault Fleets will maneuver 150 kilometers above the target. Their mission remains unchanged. Destroy that Martyr-class vessel. His commands were precise, calm, and carried an undeniable authority. The massive fleet began to mobilize. At that moment, another faint flash of a leap swept by as a Cycler-class mining ship glided into the Tornado fleet. It was equally unpredictable on the Silver Wing sensors. They did not know that Lu Ling's Astro class had quietly arrived in the deadly blind zone 400 kilometers above their fleet at an angle. On the bridge of the Death Vortex-class battleship, Brutzerai scanned the tactical star map and issued orders. All fleets, prepare to jump. Target, Courage 1 coordinate point. In an instant, 12 Tornado-class engines erupted with scorching plasma blue flames and began to maneuver. The Silver Wing quickly reacted, attempting to divide the battlefield. Except for 2 assault fleets protecting the flagship. However, just 10 seconds later, the ghost fleet in their eyes began to leap and disappear. They jumped. Oh no. What? Is this short-range leap technology? Azimuth 074, elevation 33. Above us. Gasps erupted across the bridges of the Silver Wing. Even Kawi's pupils suddenly contracted as he witnessed 12 Tornado-class ships and the Death Vortex appear like phantoms directly above the Fleet S formation, dispersing at an astonishing speed. Their target was the flagship. Kawi realized in an instant. Sir did not give them any time to react. The fleet landed and activated the microcurvature engines, forming a hunting formation at maximum speed. All ships loaded electromagnetic pulse munitions. Electronic interference fully engaged, focusing fire on target number 01 aircraft carrier. Repeat. Focusing fire on target number 01 enemy aircraft carrier. Dozens of bright white lines cut through the air above the silver-winged formation, instantly crossing a distance of 380 kilometers and crashing violently against the shields of the Ashen Oath. The Ashen Oath was well prepared. The shields were operating at maximum power. ready to withstand the impact. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous sound of violent explosions echoed through the armor of the entire ship. Blinding light erupted from the thick shields, and energy readings plummeted sharply, unable to lock onto the target. Trajectory calculations failed. Target acquisition unsuccessful. Optical assistance activated. Visual interception predicted. Quick! The desperate shout from the close defense officer felt like a regression to the era of naval warfare. Report. The front shield value of the Ashen Oath is decreasing. 999897 Some energy zones have been breached. Deflection failed. Buzzing followed as the electromagnetic pulse swept in like a tsunami, causing the internal lights of the ship to flicker violently. Wait, what's going on? Warning. Shields are rapidly depleting. 9593 Inside the bridge of the Ashen Oath, the piercing alarms mixed with the terrified shouts of the officers. Commander Koch's orders were only halfway given, and the massive silver-winged fleet was still maneuvering. Meanwhile, that ghost fleet had announced the beginning of war with an unreasonably precise strike. 12 battle cruisers, firing in unison every 10 seconds, had taken down the shields of Carrier 7. Koch, after so many years of combat, found it utterly absurd. Enemy attack. Koch's voice cut through the chaos, commanding all dreadnoughts to ignore the interference and concentrate fire on that Martyr-class ship. The scavenger squadrons and the Knights changed their targets, engaging the enemy fleet. All other warships surrounded the Ashen Oath, forming a mobile air defense network, firing freely. On the tactical star map, the blue dots representing the Silver Wing began to maneuver densely, dragging out a long line. With a single command, the Silver-winged fleet demonstrated its terrifying firepower delivery and adaptability. And Chalshurjir Paujan, beyond visual range artillery battle, began across 380 kilometers. Hundreds of 1,100 mm cannons roared simultaneously. Tons of metal projectiles formed a devastating torrent, charging straight at the Death Vortex and Tornado fleets. At the same time, dense squadrons of carrier-based aircraft and iron cavalry, moving at a speed of 7 kilometers per second, swarmed towards the terrifying Hunter main fleet, attempting to offset the technological gap with numerical superiority. On the bridge of the Death Vortex-class ship, Sayre calmly observed the overwhelming attacks displayed on the tactical screen. Report. Enemy volley arrival time, 71 seconds. Trajectory distribution is even, covering a large area with average accuracy. Should we stop the shield relay? Redirect energy to the shields? The energy control officer inquired. No need. Maintain formation maneuvering. All gun groups are loaded and continue to focus fire on target number 01 aircraft carrier. Sayre maintained maneuverability, unwavering in the tactical objective. In the next moment, the retaliatory firepower of the Silver Wing fiercely struck the high-speed maneuvering Terror Hunter fleet, but most of it merely grazed by. Hunter 1's shield strength, 84. Hunter 2's shield strength, 83. Hunter 10's shield strength, 853. Death Vortex's shield strength, 9,848. Faced with the concentrated fire from hundreds of battleships of the Silver Wing Resistance, the shields of the Terror Hunter fleet barely rippled. No worries, it's just a test. Sai Rue was unconcerned, watching the dense red dots on the tactical star map, casually packaging the combat data and sending it to Lu Ling's entire fleet. Shut down the micro-warp, activate shield resistance, launch all drones, and sentinel drones. In the void, both fleets continuously unleashed deadly flames, their trajectories forming an intricate web of death. Explosive light flickered like countless brief stars igniting on a dark canvas. On the lower strike deck of the Death Vortex, the hangar was brightly lit, with drones taking off and passing through a thin energy barrier. Bloodshark, Ghost Crocodile, and hundreds of others looked down through the portholes at the densely packed Silver Wing Resistance fleet, unable to suppress their awe. Wow, this is the first time I've seen a dreadnought. It's huge. Each dormitory up there is at least 20 square meters. We really made it. We're going up against a regular army. At that moment, Lien walked over with Ing, seemingly just having received orders. Bridge orders. Split into 10 groups. Our task is to replenish carbon lead ammunition for the Sentinel drones. Understood. Received. The crew responded in unison, immediately heading to their designated positions. With Aura present, everyone knew exactly what to do, their paths planned out, and time allocated clearly. Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile, wearing specially designed engineering power armor, jumped onto the assault craft, loading 160 carbon lead rounds, each 1 meter long and weighing 300 kilograms, into the cargo hold. Seeing their Sentinel rapidly ejected into space from below, Bloodshark quickly maneuvered the assault craft to follow. Once in space, the overwhelming explosions above reflected in everyone's pupils, flickering in and out. They had never witnessed such a grand scene. Damn, these little brats have some serious firepower. Bloodshark cursed. But his hands didn't stop moving as he halted behind the Sentinel. Ghost Crocodile had already flown out of the hatch, using a heavy magnetic device to secure the assault craft, and the two began to transport ammunition. Old croc, wouldn't it be great if this thing had unlimited ammo? Bloodshark's iron boots clanked as they adhered to the Sentinel drone, continuously joking over the channel. If it had unlimited ammo, I'd decharge in and blow that big guy up. Ghost Crocodile pointed at the Silver Wing's main formation 380 kilometers away. Below the Terror Hunter fleet's main formation, 573 kilometers away, aboard the Justice-class Martyr battleship, alarms blared like the death knell, each one louder than the last, causing everyone's hearts to race. Their work efficiency reached its peak at that moment. Reactor core temperature has reached critical. Cooling system failure. Further strain will lead to meltdown. The voice of the chief engineer was hoarse, filled with anxiety on the brink of collapse. What time is it? My shield needs energy. The officer roared. The shield energy reading in front of him was about to hit 0. Weapon control. Can we intercept? Claude shouted. There are too many to stop. We're locked on by the dreadnought. The voice of the fire control officer was low and despairing. The bridge fell into silence for a moment. Everyone could clearly hear their own hearts pounding wildly in their chests, as if they were about to explode at any second. On the main tactical display, the 4 red symbols representing the Silver Wing Judgment-class dreadnought had completed the final calibration of their main guns, coldly locking onto the battered hull of the Justice. Parker took a deep breath. He chose to unconditionally trust Lu Ling. Claude, his voice unexpectedly steady, broke the silence. How long until the launch bay is repaired? 30 seconds remaining. Claude replied affirmatively. The traitor revealed himself. Claude did not continue. It was too late to expose the traitor now. Nothing could be said. Just then, outside the viewport, the Reverser-class mining ship slowly moved forward, blocking the Justice. Is that the mining ship? What is it doing? Is it using its body to shield us from the dreadnought's main guns? How is that possible? Someone exclaimed in shock. Even Parker cast an incredulous glance. In the next second, four thick beams of blazing white energy, capable of consuming stars, surged forth from the muzzle of the Silver Wing Judgment-class dreadnought, tearing through the void with the momentum of annihilation. The brilliance was so intense that it briefly overshadowed the light of distant stars, illuminating the entire bridge of the Justice in a ghastly white, leaving no shadows to hide in. In an instant, this destructive torrent of energy struck hard against the dark hull of the Reverser-class ship. Buzz. The anticipated scene of the mining ship vaporizing and exploding did not occur. The point of impact erupted with an unviewable, extremely dazzling white light, as if a miniature star was being born there. Immediately, centered on the impact point, the shield of the Reverser class became visible, its aura extremely dense, presenting an orange-red translucent outline. Inside the bridge, the deathly silence was broken by heavy gasps and the sound of people drawing in their breath. Everyone, including Parker and Claude, stared in amazement at the unimaginable scene outside the viewport. They could clearly feel the chilling energy conduction and heat radiation coming through space. Oh my God, the defense officer murmured. As a shield expert, he could not comprehend the working principle of that dark red matrix. This was impossible. It violated the conservation of energy. Inside the bridge of the Reverser class, Christine leaned lazily against the armrest, propping her cheek. Report. Shield strength remaining at 64. Channeling energy from the industrial reactor into the capacitors. She said calmly. Yes. Maximum power recharge initiated. Estimated shield recharge time, 28 seconds. Chapter 180 The Prelude to War in the Command Center of the Judgment-class Dreadnought. Soul of Determination, of the Kashi 1st Legion of the Silver Wing Resistance. An intense restlessness filled the air, reminiscent of the oppressive thunder before a storm. Report. Optical visual confirms it still exists. Impossible. The chief tactical officer suddenly stood up from the console, his face pale. The energy from the super divine punishment volley has been confirmed to hit, with complete energy release. The error margin is below 0. 5. This firepower is enough to vaporize 10 Crusader-class battleships. Crusader? Do you see what kind of ship that is? Based on the characteristic data analysis, there's a 95 probability it's a mining barge. Absurd. Are you saying a mining barge from the Earth Federation withstood the full volley of 4 Judgment-class dreadnoughts? Yes. Its shields didn't even break. As the tactical officers engaged in a heated argument, the figure sitting calmly in the command chair grew increasingly silent. Commander Kawaii's weathered calm finally shattered. His deep, star-like eyes narrowed, fixated on the unassuming mining ship displayed on the main screen. Above the fleet was their main force, and below was a mining barge. Despite having experienced countless battles and witnessed various secret technologies of the Empire, he had never seen, nor even imagined, such an absurd scene. A full-force strike from 4 Judgment-class dreadnoughts should have instantly determined the outcome of a medium-sized fleet battle, yet it couldn't shake a mining ship's shields? This was no longer a technological gap, it was a dimensional crushing. A cold chill rapidly ascended his spine. He had initially thought the Earth Federation merely possessed some advanced stealth radar and shield technologies, but it now appeared that they wielded powers capable of completely overturning the existing rules of cosmic warfare, almost like a miracle. In the Tactical Analysis Center, how much longer until the energy consumption curve and simulation model are complete? The strategic analyst quickly responded. Report, Commander. Data is being collected. We need 2 more volleys. Fire control. How long until the main cannon is charged? 75 seconds. Charge complete. Prepare for another volley. Kawai took a deep breath. The last trace of hesitation completely vanished. He summoned the ship's AI, authorizing with his identity, raise the threat level of Target 1 to infinite, and launch all return support at any cost to take it down. Permissions have been revised. Secret order confirmation. Retrieving response signal. Leap signal has responded. Quantity, 825. Identification code. Allies, Silver Wing Resistance Kashi 1st Corps 9th Assault Fleet. Silver Wing Resistance Kashi 1st Corps 15th Assault Fleet. Silver Wing Resistance Kashi 1st Corps 16th Assault Fleet. Silver Wing Resistance Kashi 1st Corps Judgment Class Dreadnought. Response quantity, 16. Silver Wing Resistance Kashi 1st Corps Gospel Class Aircraft Carrier. Response quantity, 9. Main Fleet Assembly Order confirmed. Quantity, 2,988. Estimated arrival time at the battlefield, 14 hours 56 minutes. Silver Wing Resistance Group 63 has responded. A secure communication spanning light years came through. Only voice, authoritative, calm, and impossible to ignore. This is the Silver Wing Resistance High Command, one of the 24 councils. Commander of the Silver Wing Shadow Cluster in the 63rd Star Zone, Enret Kaviki. You have identified an infinite-level target? Facing the commander who directly oversees one of the sharpest blades of the Silver Wing, Kaviki's tone was filled with unprecedented gravity. Commander Enret, it's not identification. It's confirmation. Our unit is experiencing a dimensional strike against our existing military system and even our cognition. He did not engage in any pleasantries. Directly retrieving all optical and energy sensor data streams from the recent Super Divine Punishment Volley, as well as the nearly collapsed confirmation report from the tactical officer, synchronously transmitting it through the highest authority link. This is a true battleship of the Earth Federation, not a civilian vessel. Whoever can control it will redefine the rules of the Silver Shield Cantilever War. Conversely, if it falls into the hands of the Empire or other forces, the countdown to the demise of the Silver Wing will begin. The target is currently very limited. We must act with all our strength to gain absolute control of the situation before the Empire's main forces arrive. This is a lightning war we cannot afford to lose. Enret remained silent for several seconds, clearly rapidly assessing the shocking information. Group 63 is our last retreat to secure the Kashi battle zone. Currently, the fleets of the Empire's regional governors and those dukes are keeping a close watch. If we fully commit to Wanbei, it means we will actively expose a supply gap spanning 177 light years. Kaviki stood straight, his words resolute. As I said, Commander Enret, if the Empire obtains this super technology comparable to the legacy of the pioneers, the Silver Wing will face irreparable doom. At that time, not only will the extragalactic star systems be lost, but the entire Silver Shield Cantilever will fall under the Empire's domain. His voice was heavy and determined. People lose land. People and land both survive. Losing people and land. Both people and land are lost. Therefore, I request your approval for Group 63 to execute the ultimate Genesis plan. Our unit will do whatever it takes to engage the target and even the Empire's main force to buy you the last transition assembly time. For the future of the Silver Wing. The communication on the other end fell silent once more, and this time, the silence lasted even longer. Kaj could sense that Commander Enret was weighing the fate that could affect the balance of power across the entire Kashi constellation and beyond. Finally, Andrit's voice came through again, replacing all calm with solemnity. General Calhoun, Kaj, respond. Once my forces are mobilized, a massive war will inevitably break out. Kaj's voice suddenly rose as he saluted. For absolute freedom. The Silver Wing troops are ready to sacrifice. Good. At all costs, hold them back. I now authorize you to directly command the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Legions of Kashi. If necessary, use the secret weapons and relics of the pioneers. General Koch, when the eclipse shines, it will be the time for the Silver Wing's full assault. The communication abruptly cut off. Koch slowly closed his eyes, then suddenly opened them wide. His gaze filled with cold steel resolve. After burning the boats, humanity's heart would know no fear. He turned to the bustling bridge, his voice icy. All fleets, follow orders, and form a defensive formation. The 5th Assault Fleet, set off immediately and take control of the local acceleration track. The strategic officer exclaimed, Commander, the 5th Assault Fleet is currently on a mission to escort the Ashen Oath aircraft carrier, and it only has 26 shields left. It is expected to last only 28 more seconds. Tell Major General Marlin, if the shields fall, hold the line with armor. Defend the core section at all costs. The Ashen Oath cannot sink. Reinforcements are on the way. Understood. In the void, the 5th Assault Fleet, originally 25 kilometers away from the Ashen Oath aircraft carrier, ceased fire and began to head toward the Zhuangbai acceleration track, engines ramping up, leaving a brief line on the star map. Meanwhile, hundreds of return beacons were launched from the Silver Wings formation, creating ripples in space. On the bridge of the Reverser-class ship, Christine adjusted her posture slightly as over 3,000 signals from carrier-based aircraft and 1,500 signals from Iron Riders approached the tactical display. A sea of crimson dots detected a large number of high-speed small targets approaching. Expected to reach our close defense artillery range in 4 seconds, reported the radar officer. The tactical officer followed, compared to the database. Identified as Silver Edge carrier-based aircraft and War Lance assault-type Iron Riders. Christine outlined the operational interface and gave the command. Lift the safety protocols for the surface mining units. Launch all Samurai drones and sentries, and execute a 10-kilometer defensive maneuver. Command confirmed. Safety protocols for mining units lifted. On the thick hull of the Reverser-class ship, 10 inconspicuous covers silently slid open, revealing 10 75mm automatic cannons. The drone launch channels opened, and Samurai drones swarmed out, weaving a death line around the ship's body with the sentry drones. In the distance, Andre led the carrier-based aircraft and Iron Riders desperately retreating to their formation, pursued by thousands of Silver Wing fighters. Compared to Christine's calm, the Bridge of the Justice was somewhat tense. Insufficient firepower, numerical disadvantage, and tight defenses. The crew snapped back to reality from the shock of the battleship's broadside. Numerous enemy carrier-based aircraft. Iron Riders were closing in. Expected engagement in 4 seconds. Too many. Exceeded the interception limit of the close defense system, efficiency below 30. 1,000 assault boats detected departing from the main formation. They intend to initiate boarding actions. Parker remained expressionless. In just 4 seconds, life and death were no longer in his hands. At that moment, a hoarse yet hopeful shout came through the communication channel from the engineering department. Sir, the arrival has been repaired. A glimmer of brilliance flashed in Parker's eyes, and without any hesitation he commanded, execute the arrival. Secret order confirmed. Retrieving response signal. Jump signal has responded. Quantity, 100. Identification code. Allied forces. 1st Sacred Legion of Colossi. 9th Assault Fleet. 1st Assault Fleet of Marquis Jean Lon. Arrival launch. The launch port at the top of the Justice opened, and 100 arrival beacons, containing the Empire's hyperspace jump technology, shot into the cold void like vengeful spears breaking free from their restraints. They hovered 20 kilometers above the Justice. Their surfaces' deep blue energy circuits instantly illuminated to the extreme, spinning wildly. These 100 beacons precisely formed an enormous three-dimensional array, embodying the Empire's highest spatial mysteries. Its complexity and the intricacy of energy flow were far beyond the return beacons that relied on sheer numbers like those of the Silver Wing. Detected ultra-high intensity, superspec space fluctuations. The first to react was the main formation of the Silver Wing. Admiral Kaviki stood calmly with his hands behind his back and above their formation. 742 arcs were tearing through space. When the fearless ships concentrated their fire but failed to destroy that ghost mining barge, he knew that this battle was inevitable. Both sides were calling upon their backing forces. In the next second, the cosmic background radiation of the entire DT-77 star domain seemed to be forcibly distorted. 100 massive hyperspace passages were generated first, establishing their channels faster than the Silver Wing. A dazzling light emerged as 100 Imperial Thunderstorm-class battleships almost simultaneously appeared on the battlefield, 50 of which were painted in the Imperial Navy's iconic gold and red-gray livery. With their bows adorned with a giant golden scepter and sword emblem radiating supreme authority, the other 50 bore the mark of Marquis Jean Lon. When they arrived, they were shocked by the overwhelming Silver Wing fleet on the opposite side. Parker heavily sat back in the command seat, the tension in his shoulders finally easing a bit as he let out a long breath. In the reinforcement fleet, a report came in, detected a large number of high-energy reactions. It's the fearless ships of the Silver Wing rebels. Aircraft carriers. The commander of the Jean Lon assault fleet, Parker's uncle, spoke in a rough tone and immediately sent a communication to Parker. You little brat, how could you do this? They have so many people. And you still want me to join the fight? Parker smiled slightly. Uncle Riao, this is a walking achievement. Besides, if the sky falls, there are tall ones to hold it up. The Imperial Navy has arrived too, right? Huh. If you hadn't called them, we would have met in heaven. The Imperial Navy was clearly more prepared, the voice of the commander of the 9th Assault Fleet cold and steady. Call for reinforcements. Secret order confirmation. Retrieving response signal. Jump signal responded. Quantity 1027. Identification code. Allies. 1st Sacred Legion 1st Assault Fleet. 1st Sacred Legion 20th Assault Fleet. 1st Sacred Legion Hegemony Declaration Class Planetary Fortress. 1st Sacred Legion Judgment Class Siege Dreadnought. Response quantity 16. 1st Sacred Legion Ancestor Class Aircraft Carrier. Response quantity 10. Descending launch. Main Fleet Assembly Order confirmed. Quantity 3,200. Estimated arrival time 15 hours and 30 minutes in the next moment. Another 1,000 descent beacons rose into the sky from the Imperial forces. Following this, 26 more brilliant and energetically fluctuating purple streams shot into the sky, steadily hovering at an altitude of 50 kilometers. Finally, a purely magnificent beacon, seemingly condensed from liquid gold, ascended like a reigning emperor, slowly rising until it reached the pinnacle of 100 kilometers before finally coming to a stop. An arrow piercing the clouds, meeting thousands of troops. Parker watched this ceremonial and oppressive sight, murmuring to himself. The situation had escalated completely. A grand war destined to be recorded in the annals of the Empire was about to begin. The future of everyone was no longer in their own hands. They were like dust drifting with the tide, until witnessing the final outcome, either destruction or rebirth. Chapter 181. Landing and unmatched at this moment. Lu Ling's Astro-class frigate had quietly hovered 400 kilometers below the Silver Wing main fleet, maintaining a tactical distance of 800 kilometers from Ceres' Tornado fleet. Through the tactical viewport, the massive fleets of the Cosmic Empire and Silver Wing could be seen continuously jumping into the arena, their lights swirling like a tide of stars. Lu Ling's gaze was calm as he issued a command to Christine. It's done. Prepare to withdraw. Almost simultaneously, Parker's communication came through. Your Excellency Lu Ling. The Imperial fleet cannot detect your warship. Their target is Silver Wing. You may retreat now. Lu Ling's lips curled slightly as his gaze swept past Rosaniella. No need to worry about me. I have other matters to attend to. Understood. Parker ended the communication. Rosaniella remained silent. She knew that the Ashen Oath had been targeted and would soon sink. But she was powerless. She couldn't contact her mentor, Hewitt. Meanwhile, the Reverser class commanded by Christine had engaged the Silver Wing Vanguard directly. The Samurai drone swarm was the first to engage. These small reconnaissance drones, only 7 meters long, formed a conical formation, piercing into the dense wave of red dots on the screen. The Silver Wing aircraft communication channel was filled with noise. Are these the enemy's aircraft? They seem more like drones. Still unable to lock on? According to the strategic command, the enemy has strong electronic jamming capabilities. Otherwise, we would be piloting Falcons right now. Haha, then let's rely on visual contact. Dogfight. The Silver Wing Falcon attack aircraft, piloted by the ace Captain Ricardo of the Razor Squadron, let out a light hum over the communication channel as he led the charge in this advanced fighter jet. The optical radar clearly marked over 100 red dots representing the enemy, while on the other end, the supplies of fuel and missiles stood at a full capacity of 100. His aircraft's wings were decorated with 70 prominent kill marks and 3 skulls, symbolizing his destruction of 70 enemy aircraft and 3 iron steeds. Judging by their size, they appeared to be mere toys, unable to carry much ammunition. His wingman, Lieutenant Marcus of Razor 2, casually chimed in, noting that they didn't even have decent weaponry mounted, although their formation looked quite flashy. A predatory smile crept onto Ricardo's lips. In his 30 years of extensive combat experience, such small drones were typically used as expendable cannon fodder to deplete enemy ammunition or for suicide reconnaissance missions. He was even too lazy to allocate precious missiles, mainly because they couldn't be locked on. Razor Squadron, be advised, free hunting. Use the cannons to deal with them. Save ammo for primary targets, and upon reaching the designated location, deploy the jump interference probes to prevent the target from jumping. Captain Ricardo issued the combat order confidently. First and second teams follow me. Break through their formation. He pushed the joystick, and the high-performance Silver Wing Falcon responded nimbly with a roll, forming a sharp spear with his 60 teammates as they charged straight into the small cone formation. In just a few thousand meters, they closed the distance in an instant. Ricardo could even see through the high-powered optical sensors the smooth, cold metal shells of those drones. Only 2 cannons? This rudimentary construction made him frown. The exposed rivets and rough welding marks made these drones look like they were cobbled together from discarded parts. Going for a wasteland style? Huh? Entering range. Lock on target. Fire at will. Shoot. But in that instant, those seemingly clumsy drones suddenly unleashed an astonishing acceleration, as if propelled by an invisible giant bow. The explosive speed caught all the Silver Wing pilots off guard. Damn it. Tricked. Something's wrong. So fast. Ricardo's pupils suddenly contracted. His battle-honed instincts sensed immense danger. He yanked back the joystick hard, and the aircraft attempted to evade at an almost uncontrollable steep angle. Too late. The drone spewed flames, and the elite pilots of Razor's squadron scrambled to evade, their originally neat attack formation instantly collapsing amid brilliant sparks. Charging directly? Another squadron pilot clearly didn't believe in bad luck, roaring as he unleashed a barrage of cannon fire at a drone that had just completed its attack. But shockingly, the hot armor-piercing rounds were easily absorbed by a suddenly appearing orange-red shield as they approached the target, causing only insignificant ripples on the shield's surface. The drone emerged unscathed, not even changing its course, instead shifting at an incredibly slight angle to precisely shoot down two silver-winged falcons. What the hell? A shield? Small drones have shields? What kind of joke is this? Lieutenant Marcus's voice became high-pitched with extreme shock and fear. The strategic command only mentioned strong electronic interference. But didn't he say anything about this? How the hell do we fight? Chaos. Absolute chaos. The tactical maneuvers and coordinated formations that the Silver Wing pilots were famous for seemed ridiculous and clumsy in front of these absurdly fast drones that had shields and terrifyingly precise attacks. Some drones didn't even fire. They simply collided with the Silver Wing fighters and continued through the explosion unscathed. Without radar support, missiles and lasers were completely ineffective. Ricardo desperately maneuvered his aircraft, pushing the Silver Hawk's performance to the limit, executing complex evasive maneuvers that could be written into textbooks, trying to shake off the lock-on and even counterattack. But no matter how hard he struggled, there was always one or even two drones that clung to him like ghosts. In an instant, they had already retreated dozens of kilometers from the battlefield. As the ace pilot of the Silver Wing Ash's Redemption aircraft carrier, Ricardo felt cold sweat for the first time on his forehead. This unequal battle left him feeling unprecedentedly powerless. Unfair. Absurd. How do we play this? He felt like he wasn't fighting. He was just running to his death. They were toying with them. The entire Razor Squad's second team was wiped out. Razor 7's engine was hit, and the reactor melted down. We suffered heavy losses. The Mantis squad was completely annihilated, requesting retreat. There's no way to escape. The communication channel was filled with the desperate cries and dying screams of team members. Ricardo's heart sank. He watched helplessly as his carefully trained squad, these battle-hardened comrades, were mercilessly slaughtered like novices. Their advanced fighters and rich experience seemed pitifully inadequate against the opponent's absolute technological superiority. Just then, a drone made an almost physics-defying right-angle turn, abruptly cutting between Ricardo and Marcus, its cold barrel locking onto both of them. Razor 2. Spread out. Sharp right dive. Ricardo shouted, pulling hard to the left rear, his aircraft shaking violently as he narrowly avoided that fatal attack. But while he dodged, Marcus did not have the same luck or skill. Marcus, eject. Eject now. Ricardo keenly noticed. Another attack from a blind spot precisely exploited the gap exposed by Marcus's emergency turn. The explosion instantly engulfed Marcus's fighter. The communication channel fell silent. It's over. His wingman, his squad, his pride, all buried here. He hadn't even managed to deploy the interference flares. He desperately squeezed every bit of performance, now pushing the speed to the limit. After retreating 50 kilometers, the relentless drone finally turned away, like the Grim Reaper retracting its scythe. Ricardo, one of the top 100 ace pilots of the Silver Wing Ash's Redemption aircraft carrier, now weakly leaned back in his ejection seat, sweat soaking through his advanced G-suit. His hands trembling slightly from excessive strain on the controls. He looked through the cockpit cover, scarred by the traces of war. At the hellish scene outside, his comrades' advanced fighter jets had transformed into silent fireballs or cold wreckage, while those flickering death machines continued to move coldly and efficiently, hunting as if they had just completed a light warm-up. This was not a battle. This was an unequal execution. The squadron led by Ricardo was just one among the thousands of carrier-based aircraft in the vast sky. After suffering significant losses, some silver-winged aircraft finally broke through the drone defense line, reaching within 20 kilometers of the cruiser-class vessel, successfully deploying the disruption needles. On the cruiser-class bridge, all close-in weapon systems, fire. The multi-barreled close-in weapon systems, which had long been primed, instantly unleashed a dense barrage, creating a fiery metal storm around the cruiser class, shredding those silver-winged fighters that had narrowly escaped the drone interception and attempted to approach for the disruption needle delivery into pieces. But this was merely an appetizer. The true prelude to destruction was now officially beginning. High-value medium target clusters detected, identified as Battle Spear MKII assault mechs, numbering over 300, reported the tactical officer. Christine's gaze swept across the tactical display, where heavily armored and powerful mechs were charging like ancient cavalry. A look of surprise flickered in her eyes. Activate the open pit miners. Maximize power output, cleanup mode. She ordered calmly. The laser miners were charging. Industrial reactor energy transfer completed. Target locking in progress. Energy pathways established. Open pit miner array activated. Status normal. Fire. At the moment the command was executed, the focusing lens components on the 4 open pit miner bases began to spin rapidly, filling with a heart-pounding red energy glow, like the eye of a demon, coalescing into a deep vortex. On the common channel of the silver-winged cavalry, all engines at full power. Charge. Unleash all turrets. Destroy the shield generators. The commander of the cavalry shouted in the channel, driving his mech adorned with the eagle emblem, leading the charge. More than 300 humanoid war machines, nearly 20 meters tall, with engines emitting dazzling blue light, formed a dense wedge-shaped assault formation, charging forward like a torrent of steel, braving the firepower of the Justice and the cruiser class. However, the next second, all their courage and momentum were completely frozen by the sight that appeared before them. A hum of immense energy spread out. Several thick red laser beams shot from the cruiser-class hull, instantly crossing tens of kilometers of void, accurately striking the cavalry formation. The cavalry commander, caught off guard, had no time to react. The last seen in his view was the pure, deep red filling the heavens and earth. His mech, his proud heavy armor, vaporized in an instant before this torrent of destruction, as if it had never existed. And this was just the beginning. The precise laser beams strike with pinpoint accuracy, sweeping through everything in their path, turning all to nothing. No matter what defensive posture the armored units take, as long as they are grazed by the red light, the armor at the contact point will instantly vanish, exposing the internal structure, which is then thoroughly disassembled by subsequent attacks. Some units are swept in half, their upper bodies vaporizing in an instant. This scene resembles not a battle, but rather a mischievous child using a high-pressure water gun to wash away a group of tin toy soldiers. No. What kind of weapon is that? Unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. Retreat. All units retreat. Request for a saturation long-range strike. The channel for the armored units is instantly flooded with boundless fear and despair. The earlier courage to charge has vanished, and the surviving knights frantically pull the control sticks of their machines, attempting to turn and flee. Yet their speed appears so slow and ridiculous in the face of that tide of death. The advanced ship hovers silently in place, like a cold, indifferent deity of destruction, turning its eye of annihilation, mercilessly clearing out any who dare approach its territory. In just a few seconds, what felt like a century to the silver-winged armored brigade, when the red laser torrent finally recedes, only a few dozen incomplete wrecks remain afloat in space from the original 300, surrounding the advanced ship. A vast and chilling vacuum forms. Further away, 200 heavy armored units and 1,000 assault boats are stunned, scattering and lingering from over 100 kilometers away. In the next moment, four super dreadnoughts arrive, bright as day, their shields glowing red before returning to calm. Inside the command bridge of the advanced ship, the shield strength is at 64. Energy loss at 22, the industrial reactor is cooling. Should we activate the main reactor for additional energy? No need. Christine waves her hand, her gaze sweeping over the increasing number of enemy ship signals on the tactical display. She stands up, stretches her body, and casually leaves the command bridge, leaving behind a final order. Jump. Return to the designated point. It's time to get down to business. Chapter 182. The Zhuangbi DT-77 Battle in the Void. The remaining silver-winged aircraft and armored units flee in panic, with countless metallic wrecks floating around the advanced ship, resembling a slaughterhouse that has just weathered a storm. However, this fragmented airspace is but a trivial corner of the grand battlefield. The advanced ship ignores the interference probes, slightly adjusting its posture, silently jumping away like a ghost. In the distance, flickering jump lights signal over 130 conventional naval vessels from Zhuangbi emerging, gliding into the main formation, providing some meager support to Parker and the Justice. Lower down, the Tornado-class fleet commanded by Sari appears with a precise, short-range jump, positioning itself 400 kilometers below the main formation of the Silver Wings, closely tracking the course of the Ashen Oath aircraft carrier. But the true eye of the storm has already shifted. Above the 9th Assault Fleet of the Holy Legion of Colossi, light suddenly erupts like a supernova, illuminating the starry sky. 1,000 battleships, adorned with the iconic dark reddish-gray of the Imperial Navy, appeared in a synchronized jump. Their hull lines were rigid and cold, the armor reflecting a ruthless gleam under the starlight. And this was merely the overture. Just as the fleet of battleships completed their formation, the space around the purple beacon node at an altitude of 50 kilometers rippled once more. 16 massive shadows, as towering as mountains, slowly emerged from the void. The Judgment-class siege dreadnoughts of the 1st Holy Legion of Karasi. With a hull length of 8 kilometers, they resembled moving steel mountains. Equipped with a 5,600mm triple-barreled supercannon at the bow, along with numerous missile launch silos and point defense arrays across their hull, as if born to shatter stars. Following closely were 10 awe-inspiring Ancestor-class aircraft carriers. With lengths reaching 12 kilometers, their hangar doors opened as they appeared, resembling beehives, unleashing hundreds of thousands of the latest wings of Sovereignty attack aircraft and Royal Guard Iron Riders, forming up in formation. However, all this majesty and power paled in comparison to the final ultimate weapon that followed. At the pinnacle of 100 kilometers, beneath a golden beacon, the light suddenly surged. A colossal entity, beyond the conventional concept of a warship, slowly descended with an irresistible weight. The pride of the First Holy Legion of Karasi. The symbol of the Empire's advanced military power, the Dominance Declaration-class planetary fortress. It resembled not a ship, but rather a heavily armed